People are here. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We are committed doing this completely by remotely. The emergency orders were extended just the other day to allow this to continue. Boy, I'd like to see this come to an end for us maybe next month if we can manage it. We got to be very, very close. So anybody interested in live captioning, it's been enabled. I'd like to just announce that. If you're having trouble with it, let us know and we'll see if we can fix that for you. Okay. I did not receive any public comments for this meeting. So that's out of the way. There are a couple of additions to the agenda. I will let, under old business, item C will be 64 Main Street. Item D will be the MOU with the town. And that is the MOU for Styles Ave. You should have all had a copy of that after the joint meeting. Under new business, G will be accept Tracy Fuller resignation. Item H will be just an update on the NICOM meeting. And I will be school safety meeting. I broke that out just from, separated it out from just a simple report. So there's a few things that we just want to highlight. Okay, with that being said, first order of business is to approve the minutes of January 19th and January 26th. Need a motion?
So moved.
Klaus,
Second.
Beth, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, the next item is the department head reports. And right on top is Chief.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Jim.
You there?
I don't think I have much to add. I did have another meeting today on my report. I noted that I've been meeting with officials from state police, Lake Placid, et cetera, the local colleges about the upcoming World University Games that are coming up in January of 2023. And we had another meeting today. So state police are taking the lead on that. So sounds like everything is in order. But other than that, I don't have anything to add unless any of you have any questions.
Did they say where everybody's going to live for that?
Student or the athletes that play hockey are mostly going to be over at SUNY Potsdam. The state police will be, I think, sprinkled a little bit down here, but mostly up near Placid, because that's where the majority of the games are going to be held. I don't know that we're going to have a huge pull on this. SUNY Canton will have obviously some games there, so we'll be there to support them and, you know, whatever we need. So
Okay,
it's being planned pretty well.
Beth, did you have your hand up?
I have mine. I didn't have mine up, but I do have a question. Jim, I had someone reach out to me over the weekend with a concern about some neo-Nazi white supremacist stickers that have been appearing around the community on poles. They were pretty unhappy about the one and said that this was the second one that they're aware of. What do you know about that? What are you doing about that? What can we do about that?
Pat Gagnon, the director of security from St. Lawrence, reached out to me, and that's the first I'd heard about it. So I had one of my officers go to Goodrich Street, was where he located one, where it was reported that there was one, but I haven't heard of any others, and no one else has contacted us to my knowledge. So if you want to let me know later where that second one is, we can try to remove it.
Apparently it's the second one on Goodrich Street. There had been one before. And if you didn't remove it, someone else did. And I would like to suggest that these people, when they see them, that they come straight to you. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, that'd be actually very helpful, rather than getting it, 2 or 3 layers later. It's easier for us to get it directly from the person that sees it. Yeah.
And do you know anything about that? Are you?
Not really.
Well,
No,
I don't want to
we
ask any questions that are.
Yeah, we haven't had any luck, anybody seeing anybody placing those around. So to my knowledge, there was just the one, so it's news to me to hear about the second one. But certainly we'll have somebody go up and take a peek and see if they can find that, if it's still there.
Yeah. Well, I will encourage the couple of people who spoke to me about it to maybe just reach out to you as well. It's really, really unsettling, something we don't want anyone in our community seeing. Our children, our members of different backgrounds. It's just horrible.
I mean, I
Thank
will
you.
tell you too that we had there was an intelligence meeting today. State police, sheriff's department, all the local agencies, parole, probation, everybody comes to the meeting. My sergeant was there today, and this was never brought up. So it doesn't sound like it's anything far reaching, in my opinion, or my guess. But certainly I did post a memo after Pat Gagnon sent that email out and asked everyone to keep an eye out for it and to let me know. But so far, other than the initial one and tonight, this is all I've heard about it.
Good,
So I just have a quick question. Was it reported to Pat and then Pat connected to you?
Someone on campus reported it through, I
Okay.
don't know who, but it got back to Pat, and Pat just gave
Yep.
me a heads up. So,
Got it. Thank you.
yep.
Anything else for the chief?
No, thanks, Jim.
Okay, next one up is recreation report. Megan.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. Following up from the chief talking about university games. We are a practice site for the teams playing at SUNY Canton. So that's something to keep in mind. Master Frank Palumbo, he started up his karate classes again last Thursday. He separated his 2 groups into 2 separate groups, so that way they had a little more elbow room. And he said it actually worked out better because he got the little kids away from the the older kids. So the older group was able to focus a little more without the little ones running around. Fundraising for the ADA canoe kayak launch continues to be a huge success, thanks to Mark McKenna. That launch will be paid for, and as long as we don't have any delays, it should be arriving for the Russian canoe race. So that would be fantastic. Let's see. 2 weeks ago, we had the ice resurfacer at the pavilion. Went under a pretty major repair to the auger and the conditioner. The auger and the conditioner part of the machine that goes up and down in the back. Pretty important. But luckily with overnighting parts and then also the help of the DPW crew, we were able to get it all fixed and avoid a shutdown. And then I know I'm due up later in the meeting to talk more about that. Another huge thank you to DPW crew. They fixed a 10-year-old broken water main line underneath our compressor floor. It's basically in order to fill our resurfacer with water, which is hot water to resurface the ice. When the chiller is going, we basically had 0 water pressure, which made it near impossible to fill up the machine before in between periods of a boys varsity game. So we now have full water pressure. So that's fantastic. And then last Friday night, we had the honor of hosting a high school girls state hockey quarterfinal game. SUNY Canton hosted the Final Four Saturday and Sunday. This was the first year that girls hockey had 5 sections. So they had a quarterfinal game, and we hosted Skinny Atlas and East Green Wave, which is out of Westchester County, down near the city. they were fantastic. That team was wonderful. We've had a lot of visiting teams and they were top notch, very respectful and kind to the building. So it was a good opportunity for us, and everything went well. Other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anna?
Yes, thank you. I saw your note about the organizational shifts with the Recreation Advisory Committee and the Joint Town Village Rec Committee. And I guess I was just wondering if you could give some background on why and how that happened. And I'll just tell you, like, because my questions, it seems to me like just as a board member, hearing from community constituents is pretty important. So I'm just trying to understand why and how this is happening.
Well, we had a recreation committee meeting, and we were actually talking about shared services, and we talked about the organizational chart of the community group. And it was discussed in our group of 5, and it was decided that that citizen advisory group should just be a group for me as a recreation director. And then when we have updates needed for my committee, then I would share it with my committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Megan? Okay, we'll move on. Historian, Linda.
On vacation.
Oh, okay, well, I guess I saw John Casserly there, so maybe that's what I was asking. Wondering if that's what.
Yeah, is the grandma, isn't that Linda?
I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure Linda's on vacation.
Okay, well. it's a
Could
report.
grandma identify themselves then?
Okay, received a report from the fire chief. He's not here. Treasurer's report.
Sorry, I did have a couple things I wanted to highlight on my report. First was we made our New York State retirement payment this February 1st, total being 358,000 plus. Last year was 328,000. Continues to climb. I think every year I tell you, mainly it's at budget time, that my first year that I was here, it was just over $700 for the whole village contribution. So that always catches my attention. The other thing I did want to highlight was our sales tax collection is up $80,600 from the same time period last year, which is an increase of 26%. Those are the 2 things I wanted to highlight.
Any questions for Sally? Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, Sally, I was interested by that point in your report, and I tried to look back and ran out of time and didn't get there, but weren't sales tax receipts this time last year also up?
Last year, they were up slightly. They were only up $4,000 from the year before, but this year it's 80,000. So, and the
Okay.
gas prices have a lot to do with that.
Right. That's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, code enforcement, Tim.
Hello.
Hi there.
The board get a chance to review my report?
Yes.
Does the board have any questions regarding my report?
Doesn't look like there are.
Okay, things have been kind of quiet. I just had one permit, and there was did some training for floodplain training. had a complaint. But other than that, it was pretty quiet. Parkway projects winding down, almost complete. And that's pretty much what's happening in code enforcement.
Okay. Thank you. Yes,
Tim,
Carol?
I would just like to add that one of the things that we've been talking about in communication and technology, and that I've been talking with Heidi about, is trying to split out and the web pages for you and for the town code enforcement officer. So we'd like to sit down with you and see if we can't sort of finesse the 2 pages so that all the stuff for you is on the page attached to the village, and all the stuff for the town code enforcement office and the phone numbers and all that. Each one would have a link back to the other. So we're not trying to silo them completely, but just so people know they're going to the right place. So just know that we'll be coming to you for some help with doing that, and also sort of showing you how to do a part of that.
That's great. Thank you so much for considering that. It'll be very helpful.
Yep. Good, you bet. Well, we should get that on the calendar so we don't forget.
Perfect. Thanks again.
Anything else for Tim? Okay, next in line is Cindy Brand, Assessor.
Hey, hi, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank Anna for her help with putting that ad out in the North Country Now to drum up new enhanced star exemptions from the basic star. I got 26 to date new applicants, so it was very good. We got the word out. Somebody came in my office today and they were born on my birthday, so I was like, wow. I said, I never met anybody who was born on my birthday. So that was kind of funny. Also, I'd like to report, and this came in after I did my report, that our equalization rate has been set tentatively for the 2022 roll, and I need drum roll, and it's gonna go to, it's 86%. So I thought it would drop to 80, but the residential part did drop to 80. But being that the commercial, the appraisals, when the state came in to do when they came in to do a sampling of the town, and they did the appraisals on the commercial, that came in at 90. So between the two, we were able to claim an equalization rate at 86%. So that's not bad. So we're going from 90 to 86. And the uses for the state equalization rate are apportionment of taxes, calculation of assessments, the ceilings and exemption, everything will be applied, the allocation of state aid, and calculation of tax and debt limits, and the review of assessments. So when I put the permits on, I can't put it at a full 100% value. It will be equalized out at 86%. So does anybody have any questions for me? Oh, quiet.
Looks like we're good.
Okay.
Thanks, Cindy.
Very good. Thanks, Cindy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
See, animal control, nothing going on there. Did I miss anybody here? I don't think so.
Mike, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. I skipped past you.
I
Sorry, Lee.
apologize. That's okay. I didn't submit a report just because of my personal situation. It was due during that time and I didn't submit one. There isn't a whole lot of new things to report at this time of year. We aren't doing much that's new. We do have the CDBG CARES Act on the agenda a little later. We're working on that. We did do a request for proposals for the Willow Island project, and we did not receive any bids on that. So I've spoken with our rep at the state, and we're going to have to get together with our committee and rethink that a little bit. So we'll be re-releasing that. The Stiles Avenue project, you have the MOU on there, but we are working on the work plan for that. We have a draft of it that the state has reviewed, and the committee's looking at that. And that will be one more piece towards getting the grant contract finalized. They're still working on it from their end. The rest is really just continuing to work on other existing projects that we have. There isn't a whole lot, as I said, new to report since the last meeting.
Thanks, Lee. Anybody have any questions for Lee right now? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
You did receive a monthly report out from the DPW, some of the things that they are doing on a day-to-day basis. Couple of things I wanted to add in the absence of the superintendent have already been covered. The kayak, handicap kayak dock being fully funded. The water, the recreation pavilion has been taken care of, and nice job done by the DPW on that. I work on a daily basis with the DPW and Rick and water and wastewater. So interesting thing just came across my desk today. The salt estimates for next season are due here by the beginning of March. So that ought to be fun to figure out, but we'll go with it. We're still waiting for the transfer switch of water wastewater. We're hoping in the next month or so, we're going to have something there. And after speaking with the supervisor, we're good to go on the municipal building entryway on the roof. So that contract was signed, and that's an expense that'll be split between the town and the village.
Who's
Mark-
doing that
Mark-
work, Mike? Are we doing that work or is somebody else?
No, Bertrand's, it was bid out,
Uh-huh.
and Bertrand's came in with the low bid.
Wow.
The reviewed plans with Mark Bassford for AT&T to change out some of their cell antennas on a water tower near SUNY Canton. That'll be something that'll probably happen this spring at some point. And it looks like Walt Rexford is back, and he's working on equipment as the golf season is starting to creep up on us. So those are just a few of the things that are going on. There's some other things on the agenda that we'll talk about that deal with DPW. Any questions? Okay, I need a motion to approve department head reports.
So moved.
Carol,
Second.
Anna, okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, committee reports are next. What do we got out there for committees?
I
can get-
can,
Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Anna.
I just in short and quick today, just to let folks know that broadband committee is actually meeting next week to review the MC Fiber report with them and to learn of their findings. So I anticipate getting information to y'all, and that's something we'll be discussing in much more detail in March. And then also just to add that we have been attending, some number of us have been attending the county committee meetings, county broadband committee meetings as well. So it's great that they continue to include us. That's it for me.
Have they done the survey? They're complete, or?
I believe that from what it sounds like, they are nearing completion of all of their assessment. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yep.
Other committees? Beth, you had something?
Yep. It's all good news, Anna. Thanks for all that. Anna and I have worked with the Public Safety Committee. We've met with the Community Engagement Committee several times. We did our first event the first Saturday of Winterfest, which was the 5th. At SUNY Canton, there was a sledding event that is an annual thing that Nature North does. And we collaborated with them and SUNY Canton We had a fire truck, we had an ambulance, and members of those two crews, the Canton PD, as well as SUNY Canton Safety. So it was it was fun. We had a great turnout on our end, and there were a lot of, fabulous families, and kids got to go, and meet, some of our public safety folks. We had cookies and hot chocolate that we got to give away. It was brutally cold, but I'm really glad there was no wind and a lot of sun. So we stayed warm for the most part. So it was great. Moving on to rec. Oh, sorry. I also attended a meeting with the mayor to speak about the methadone clinic that will be later. We'll talk more about that later on the agenda. In regard to recreation, I did have a meeting with Megan to hand the baton off of all the Taylor Park materials and gave her contact information for New York State Department of Health and all the details that need to be dealt with as we are thinking about opening up Taylor Park. So I can be a resource, but I'm super glad she's in the lead on that one. So that'll be great. And I think, we also met as a committee with Megan, the rec committee did, talking specifically about the ice conditioner that we will be talking about later on in the agenda as well. So that's me.
Little update, our community choice energy, the education program is going to be delayed probably a month or so. And that's because Juul Power's upcoming potential buy is delayed. And that has to do with some large solar projects not coming online as expected because of, legal opposition and that situation. But we're hoping end of March or April would be a likely time for the public education to start. And complete streets, we, along with the mayor and the chief, met with Canton Central School folks, and we're working on State Street safety improvements, and also got a start on the path from the school to Sullivan Drive. We're getting a start on working on that, so that's in the works. And also continuing work on Judson Street, the raised crossing at Farmer. We have to do some investigation on storm drainage and figure out the logistics of that. So we're continuing work on Farmer Street. And that's about it.
All right, that makes it my turn. I have a few. Communication and technology. We did a second training that I did with the deputy. No, it was with Heidi and Megan. And that went well. I think it just was a better pace, and they were able to ask questions and stuff like that. So that was all good. We are working on, Sally and Heidi are working on moving, and Jenny, moving our Zoom recordings off of Zoom. We're at 700 and something % capacity onto YouTube, and also getting them posted on the website. So we need to be sure we have these things. We're bound by the state to have the recordings, but we need to get them into a place where they're not taking up storage space that if they, Zoom has been good about giving some flexibility during COVID, but one of these days I'm afraid they're going to come and say you've got 700% over your capacity and this is what it's going to cost. So Sally and Heidi and Jenny are working on that. Our next thing, communication and technology is going to be doing is website navigation. I think I mentioned this last time, but for department heads, but also and staff and board, if there are things about the website that you find difficult or confusing or missing, any of that, just send it to us, because we'd like to, we're going to be working on that. ED Lee gave a report. We are meeting this week and then again next week, continuing the conversation about housing. So working on the housing strategic plan. And I need to follow up with Mike and Sally on consortium agreements to see which ones are paid and which ones are signed and which ones most importantly aren't, so that we can follow up on that. I know there's a consortium meeting coming up. It'd be good to get that taken care of before that. So I'll put that on my to-do list. Finance, we've been meeting monthly and making good progress on things, I'd say. We continue exploring the step of separating the clerk and treasurer positions into 2 positions. Sally's getting information from the county on that, and we just need to move forward. We will, of course, be searching for another deputy treasurer. Sally's got that under control. Sally is set up now to do monthly department budget reports. We got a little bogged down with the deputy treasurer leaving, and so that didn't happen yet, but she's set up and equipped and ready to go with that. Sally and Mike and I are working on the non-contract policy, the benefits policy, and updating that, cleaning it up. You'll get a draft of that soon, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of conversation around where we are on that. Finally, I am working with Elena, my new bestie, at Romer and Wallens on our affirmative action and equal opportunity policies and statements. I spent some time on the phone with her today. She said we weren't as pitiful as we thought we were to be able to. She said there's a lot of people in your same boat. I will get with both Chief and with Lee to talk about any. She said typically where you'll have it is in law enforcement and ED, also a wastewater, and to find out where we might have any kind of federal contracts or other contracts that have affirmative action or equal opportunity requirements. She's going to write the policy in as broad and a comprehensive a way as she can so that we're covered, but I do need to get with Jim and Lee to see of things they know of offhand. So I'll follow up on that. That's what I've got on finance. Mike, anything or Sally, anything else on that?
I want to add to the finance thing. This week, as our village attorney was reviewing several items associated with the comptroller report and our progress that we're making on the corrective action plan, we discovered that we didn't properly notice the availability of that report and place a copy in the clerk's office. So there was a question about how that was formally filed with us or with the clerk, but we're correcting that oversight immediately. I believe Sally has sent the notice or will be sending the notice and making sure that that report is properly posted. In addition, as we move forward, the last of the AUDs were completed. I know we talked about that at our last monthly meeting, Carol. But the last of the AUDs are complete, and I believe the comptroller questions have been answered. And then the next step would be that we notice that those are available also. So those will be available as soon as we have the file. And that's the only addition I have to the finance committee report.
The only other small thing I have, and I'm just going to say it because I wrote it down. Shared services is going to be meeting again. We have not. We've been talking about getting together to the last one. All of the shared services agreements are finished and signed except recreation, which is still a challenge. But I think we need to hammer out our resurfacer and plans for that. So I'm putting that on the back burner for now. That's all I got.
Do we have any other committees out there that need to report that aren't on the agenda? Okay. We'll move forward here. Communications and information, I have none. Did speak to our county legislator and he talked to us a little bit about a request for some additional ARPA fundings to the county for our water projects. And there are several requests now that are the county's looking at. So whether we will get some additional funding or not, it's kind of questionable. In Canton, there's been several requests. So we'll see how it gets prioritized for us. Yes, Anna.
Do you have any sense on how those requests were solicited? Like, was there a broad, please request money?
I don't think that happened. I think as word got out that there was going to be some money available in the community, that some people stepped up.
I see.
SUNY
And-
Canton wrote a letter for a project, and as did we, and there's many others. Hospital down in Star Lake, and so I think the county's looking at all of those. They'll probably have to make some decisions.
When our legislator was here last month, he said he expected them to be deciding at the beginning of this month. Do we have any sort of update on when the legislature might decide on this?
I think the full legislature, when they meet next, there'll probably be some movement at that point. Carol was there when he came in. I think that's about, isn't that accurate, Carol?
I think, didn't he say they were meeting today? I think the committee or
committee
something
was
like that. And
meeting.
then we're going to take their.
Yeah, the committee was meeting, and then they were moving it on to the full board.
Yeah.
Those
that's what
decisions
would,
would be made by the 15th.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to old business. The first item on the agenda was an update on the methadone clinic in Canton. Beth and I and the chief attended a presentation by the county in that office that's doing it. In addition, you should have received an email today from Jerry with an opinion as you look through some things concerning discrimination and the type of activities that can occur in the zone where that is. County laid out their plan very clearly, what they're doing. A lot of it has made the news already. I've seen articles about it, and the articles have been very accurate in terms of what they told us. Beth, that
Yeah, they were thorough. They I asked a lot of questions and they answered them. So they've got a process in place, and I think that it's a project that's moving forward. So
the process, they service about 175 clients right now at different levels, and there's about 30 that will need the additional help that a methadone clinic will offer. They told us that no one is given a script and they walk out with a script. Anybody involved in the process goes through their medical person, and then it's a witnessed dosing. So everything is done there. And they can't walk out. They will be operating 6 days a week, I believe, is what we got. There's once this story broke that we had some interests and concerns. I heard from a gentleman, Cy Detmer, I believe, and he provided a bunch of information about clinics and how they operate and their importance, and sent me a whole box of information. And so I put stuff in each of your mailboxes down in the at the clerk's office, so that you can see what the kind of things that he's offered. Jerry, you sent a note out about the possible discrimination of, and where we're back, similar to what we ran into with another, with the church, with zoning and everything else. So if you want to highlight that.
My memo just dealt with the Americans with Disabilities Act, which does apply to zoning and actions by local governments in citing different facilities. And under the definitions, a person with a drug addiction can be deemed to be a disabled person who is entitled to the protection of the act. There are some federal cases specifically on point dealing with methadone clinics, which challenged and basically overruled local efforts to restrict the clinics. The basic issue is that you not discriminate against people with a disability. In the zone where the Human Services Building is located, that zone allows medical or health-related uses, including medical offices and medical clinics. So to say a methadone clinic cannot be allowed in that zone or be subject to specific restrictions, in my view, amounts to a discriminatory act against a person with a disability when you are allowing someone who does not have the disability to get health-related services at a similar type of clinic. If you had a case where there was not a substantially similar use in the zone, then you could say no clinics or no clinics at all. But that's not what we have here. So based on the facts that were brought to my attention, I felt that the ADA would effectively limit us in being able to restrict that use at that site.
I just have a couple things to add. One is I asked about location and how it was decided to be in Canton. And at one point they were thinking about this being in Messina, and it was at a time when the law was different than it is now, where they needed to have a separate building from an existing clinic, and that law's changed. So it made sense to combine it. It also, in terms of proximity to the county jail, where they need to, help with services there, that's, kind of what solidified making it in Canton in terms of location and, being efficient, to help all the, a lot of the people that they're servicing.
Anyone else?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I just want to say that, my issue with the whole situation was the method by which it was rolled out, whereby neither we as a municipality nor our chief as the, nor our chief of the police or our chief of fire, nobody was brought into any kind of conversation about this, which is hugely problematic, in part because it completely, eliminated the possibility that we could do any kind of public discussion and public education about what actually are health services that are provided. And, this is a harm reduction model. This is, important for our community to be able to provide these services to people who need them. So I guess I want to say that because I also, on the one hand, the process super problematic, and I very much hope that our leaders at the county got the message about that. On the other hand, I think that we should not be too too quick to be super concerned in a negative way about this, because in fact, if those concerns, the public safety concerns, are alleviated, really what this is doing is providing the healthcare and the mental health care and the services to people who need them. So I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate that. And I think both the chief and Beth will say that right off the bat, when this started, they were very apologetic about how this went down. They know that they should have done this different. And,
But sorry.
No, go ahead, Beth.
But to that point, I made the point very clear that I was discouraged and disappointed that it in fact happened that way. So I directly said that to both of them in the meeting. And that's just so you know that they have heard it from multiple people, because I think it's important too, because the process was just not well done. And they did apologize, and there's not much they can do about it at this point but apologize. but it really, we need to ensure that they keep hearing that, so it's not just, so that they know for sure not to do it again. At all levels of the county.
They do know that we will be paying attention, and that if
Indeed.
problems occur, we will make sure that they're aware of them, and we'll take them to where they need to go to make sure that they're resolved. Anything else from anyone? Okay, next item on the agenda is to discuss the CDBG CARES Act. I believe this was a topic of conversation at the town board. I believe that they decided that they didn't want to make a go of it. So it looks like the village will be stepping up to do something with this act. Lee, do you want to talk a little bit to this?
Sure. So this is something we had considered last year. There's a new notice of funding availability that came out at the beginning of this year, the end of last year. So we're revisiting it. The town, as you said, has opted not to take the lead as an applicant. We have heard from a number of, we've gotten some more feedback about other things that could be included in an application. We had a meeting with United Helpers today about mental health services and their need to expand services there. So they are hoping that they can put together something that can be included in our application. We've talked about assistance for small businesses, which I think we should pursue. The limiting factor to the town not applying is that the assistance will only be offered to businesses within the village limits, but that's the best we can do. We are considering some other things for public facilities that might be included. We need to understand better from the state how we can meet the national objective for serving low to moderate income clientele or populations. So we're trying to clarify some of those things, or will be clarifying some of those things. I think if we decide to move forward, the next step is going to be to set a date for a public hearing where we can present our intentions for the application to the public and ask them for comments and additional input on what may be included in that application. Another thing that we can include is expansion of broadband services. So if the timing works out that we do have the report from the broadband survey, and there is something that can be easily implemented within a year's time, that's something we could also consider if again, it serves a low to moderate income population. So there's lots more on the table right now than we had been considering last year. So I feel good about that. The deadline for applications is June 30th, but they're encouraging us to get applications in as soon as they're ready. So I guess that's the summary.
Lee and I talked a little bit about some of the options. I know emergency services is one of the areas where we can do some things. I talked to the chief at the fire department, and the generator down there is, I don't know, 23, 25 years old. That's one place that we're going to get an estimate to replace that, and probably the switch gear. Along with that would be, we're looking at the police department, but you have to be very careful on that would only serve that department. It wouldn't serve the whole municipal building. So I don't know how we could approach that. I don't think it's an option. I also don't think it's an option that we can do the upgrade to the generator at water wastewater this way either. So that's what I know Lee has been working on, working with the constituents that we would try to help. And I guess based on what we're getting, we'll move forward with it. Any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about this in the budget discussions at the NICOM conference, and I think there's good money out there, and it's the application, it's not as, the hoops aren't as quite as extraordinary to jump through as some. So I think that, to the extent that we can work with Lee to get some of these, others pulled in with us and do something, I think that's going to be very good. So we got to have at it.
Anything else on this item?
So should we set a public hearing date, or, that would be the next step.
But do we need to know what direction we're going, or?
Well,
Well, if we set
forgive
it
me if
for
I'm
next
wrong, but
month-
yeah, I think we can, I don't know what you mean by next direction. There are many projects that we can apply for, so.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to nail that down a little bit before we do a public hearing, or we can schedule a public hearing for our next meeting. That's not an issue.
I think that's a good idea. Don't you think, Lee? I think that we will sufficiently have we will have enough information gathered to gain public input. And I think we can do it in time to notice it properly. And also, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think if we did it at the next meeting, that would give us a month to sort of formulate what our intentions are, to talk to the state a little more and determine what's eligible, what's not for what we're proposing, and have a really good sense. Give United Helpers some time to put their concept together and get some budget numbers. So I think we need to pretty much know what we're applying for by the time the hearing rolls around. So that will give us something to shoot for sure. We need to give at least 7 days notice, for legal notice for that, and make sure that's all documented. So the next month's meeting seems like a good opportunity to do that.
Okay.
And we mentioned that to the United Helpers people, and that was realistic for them.
How much time would you like to give to that public hearing?
Wow. Never good at this.
Well, we did.
I'd like to think there will be input.
Yeah, we did last time. We did.
Mhm.
I would say a minimum of a half an hour, but maybe even more.
Well, if
Well,
we
we
started
know-
it,
We can go at 6 PM, and if we run over a little bit, we're okay.
that was my question. Yep. I'm amenable to that.
The idea would be that everyone, that wanted to have something to say, we could, we try to limit it to 3 minutes and we'll go from there. Okay. Sounds like everybody's in agreement that we do a public hearing next month. That's the 16th, I believe. So. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 64 Main Street. And just a brief update on that. We're still working with McDonald's on the cleanup. And we've got an extension that just came through today to extend that another 60 days. The reason is that they're just not going to do the work during the middle of winter. And so the extension on that contract is we've added 60 days. Jerry just got that to meet this evening. So we'll sign that. The town has to sign it, and then that'll put us off for into April. By then, we're hoping that the plan will be in place. I've had contact with the engineering firm that McDonald's has that will be doing the work or watching over the work. And he called the other day wondering if there were permits required for certain things. And So they're putting a plan together. This spring, it should be cleaned up.
I mean, great. That's what we needed to have happen. So good.
Yeah, we've been persistent with it, and that's before we move into purchase mode. The contract's still there. They got to get it cleaned up. We're still interested. So. Okay. Any other questions on that?
Oh, Mayor, before you
Yes.
move on, could I ask CG, Grandma, and Pixel 4 to identify themselves for the record, please?
Grandma, Pixel 4, and CG, can you please identify yourselves? I guess they don't want to. Okay.
Possible they don't know how to unmute themselves to be able to do that. So we'll keep an eye on.
Yep. Okay, the next item under old business is the MOU with the town. That MOU was distributed after or during our joint meeting. I don't know if there's anything else. And I think, Anna, you had a couple of questions about the MOU. Was that? You have that look on your face like you're not sure.
Well, I mean, the day after that meeting, now I'm like trying to remember. I don't think I have any. It looks pretty standard to me for what we usually do.
It's the grant, local government efficiency grant for Stiles Ave.
Right.
And I believe Lee said in her email that they're waiting on the work plan from the state. So at some point we will have to act on this thing. It's been out there for a little bit. I don't know that we can do it tonight or not.
Well, I was wondering that too. So the infrastructure committee will be meeting with their highway committee to talk about this, hopefully next week or the week after. We haven't quite nailed the day down, but we have started to, at least move in the direction of, getting together on this. So
if we're going to
Yeah.
take action on this, I think it would have to be on our public site, properly, and it wasn't. So why don't we plan on this being done for the March meeting? Right now, I don't think there's a rush to do it, but okay.
Yeah, not that I know of. That makes sense to me. The town, I'm presuming the town didn't move on this right? They met last week?
I think I believe they are good to go on it, but I don't know that. I'm not sure. I can talk to
Yeah.
but I'll just put it on the agenda for next month, and
Perfect.
it'll be out in public for the proper period of time. It's got to be out there for at least 24 hours. So. Okay, moving on. New business, authorized payment of vouchers and transfer of funds. I need a motion.
So moved.
Anna, second. Beth, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the discuss the purchase of an ice conditioner. And Megan,
Hello again.
you're up to bat.
So asked by my recreation committee to present information regarding the difference of an electric versus a propane ice resurfacer. So I presented last week to the town board. So I apologize to Cindy and Lee. Go ahead and take a 15-20 minute break so you don't have to listen to it again. So an ice resurfacer, a lot of people think it's called a Zamboni. A Zamboni is a Kleenex to a tissue. So there's two brands. It's a Zamboni and Olympia. So I know you all received a informational packet that has all the numbers broken down as well as all the quotes. So as I go through, I'm going to stay on the first page. It's titled "A Look at the Numbers," and I'm just going to go down the page, and that's going to help explain the differences between the two machines. So starting from the top, currently in our ownership, we have a 1986 Olympia brand propane ice resurfacer that we are currently using every day. The machine is 36 years old and it's functioning. Even with a new machine, we will keep that machine as a backup for not only us, but it's also serves as the backup for SUNY Canton and St. Lawrence. Not this year because it's our primary machine. Additionally, we do own a Zamboni brand electric resurfacer that was gifted to us from St. Lawrence University. We received that machine in 2014. I figured that out because the last service records at St. Lawrence were in August of 2013. So the machine is a 1999 model. It received a brand new electric engine in 2009. The machine has died in the middle of the ice season the last 3 years prior to me arriving. And it also died at the beginning of this ice season, which is why we're not using it. Looking at the ages of the machines there, you can see that the lifespan of a propane model versus an electric model. So that's why later on in the chart, I have electric machines as a 20-year lifespan and propane as a 40-year lifespan. So let's see here. So moving down the page, we have the base prices of a new machine for both Olympia and Zamboni brands. They both make electric models and they both make propane models. There are two different types of electric models. There is a traditional lead acid battery machine, and then there is the new technology, which is a lithium ion battery. I'm sure you're all wondering what's the difference. So a lead acid, it's traditionally what's been used in an ice resurfacer. It requires maintenance every day, every week, and every month. It requires staff to actually open up the battery cells, which is obviously dangerous because then you're dealing with sulfuric acid, because inside the cells is distilled water, and you have to make sure that that water level is correct to make sure that your batteries are healthy. Additionally, with my research, I found out that when these batteries are charged, there's actually an explosive mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, produces a gas. And when you open up the battery cells, that gas can be released. It's pretty rare, but you actually have a battery explode if you have an open flame nearby, or even a spark. So it's also important to note that a standard electric resurfacer actually has 24 individual batteries. So that's maintenance on 24, not just one that's in your car. Comparing that to a lithium ion battery, they're the new hot item on the market. It eliminates all battery maintenance. It also creates a safer work environment because you don't have to do battery maintenance. The difference also spills over to how you charge the machines. So lead acids are very picky. These batteries like to be drained nearly all the way to zero before you fully recharge them. And then speaking with a Zamboni service rep, right out of the box, a lead acid battery has a lifespan of 10 years, but only if you meet ideal situations. So number one, the resurfacer has to be used 12 months out of the year. If you're a 6-month operation, which we are, our lifespan of those batteries immediately goes down to 7 years. Number two, the battery has to be drained nearly to zero before fully recharging. And then 3, which is quite interesting, is after you use the machine, you're supposed to let it sit for 8 hours, which cools the machine. Then you charge it for 8 hours. Then you let it sit for another 8 hours, which cools the batteries. And then you can use it for 8 hours. So those are the 3 ideal situations for lead acid batteries. Colleges, universities, they can get pretty close to that routine because they don't have a full ice schedule like we do at the pavilion. At the pavilion, it's essentially impossible for us to achieve number 2 and 3 because on a Friday evening, if the batteries are at half charge, there's no question that we have to plug in the machine because we have 12 to 16 hours of scheduled ice time on Saturday that we have to make it through. And the same scenario happens on a Saturday night. We can't have the machine sit for 8 hours before recharging it because we have another 16 to 18 hours of scheduled ice time on Sunday. Lithium ions, they're on paper a dream compared to traditional lead acid. However, they are completely new to the resurfacer world. The battery suppliers, they have guessed on the lifespan. They're using comparable manufacturing machines that are battery operated with lithium ions already. My best guess on that's probably forklifts. So if you're in Lowe's and you see an electric forklift, it's probably a lithium ion. That being said, Potsdam just received their brand new lithium ion last week. They ordered that about a year and a half ago. Lithium ions, they're as simply as plugging in your cell phone. We can come off the ice, plug it in without hindering our battery life. To the right of the base price, you're going to see a pre-negotiated discount for municipalities through Sourcewell. I do need to update that. That discount is only available through Zamboni and not Olympia. So cross out the 2 numbers for the Olympia prices. Below the machine prices, I have 2 maintenance programs available through our regional Zamboni representatives. Our rep is down in New Jersey. The top price is if we send our electric machine to their shop for the summer, and then the bottom price is if they come to us. So the benefit of the full preventative maintenance program when we send them our machine is that they go through the entire machine in more detail, and basic repairs are all included in that price. This is something that SUNY Canton and SUNY Potsdam are planning on doing their machines in a joint effort to ship them down together. We have been invited to join that venture as well if we get to that point. The second option, when the mechanic travels up from New Jersey to our arena, on paper it's cheaper, but all the repairs are in addition to that base price. The second option is what St. Lawrence does. St. Lawrence has them come up in August every year. So the reason for the maintenance programs is because of the electric models, they have a lot of maintenance involved with them. And because my staff in DPW, we are not capable of working on an electric motor machine. It requires a specialized mechanic to work on them. In the next section, this is the big section where I break down the overall cost of these machines over a 40-year period. And again, I chose 40 years because that's the anticipated lifespan of a propane model. The first 2 lines, they feature a traditional lead acid electric machine, one with the preventative maintenance program, and then one with just the basic yearly maintenance. So one of them, we send the machine down, the other one, they would come up to us. Lines 3 and 4, they're the same as the first 2 lines, just with a lithium ion machine. And line 5 just features an Olympia propane model. So staying in that chart, as we move from left to right, 2022 machine is the cost of a new machine today. Maintenance cost for the electric, again, is the preventative maintenance programs. And then for the propane model, I use the repair costs from this year, which does include the $800 emergency repair that we just did 2 weeks ago. And then I multiplied that by 40. So in a typical year, it's going to be a lot less. So again, the major difference between the maintenance costs is because on a propane machine, my staff and DPW are able to work on it very easily. A lot of the machines are interchangeable with truck parts, tractor parts, farm equipment. A lot of the Olympia that we have now, Ryan's able to just go down to Napa and get parts for it, or go over to Casanova and get parts for it. So it makes it a lot easier. I also, Jim Smith up in the town meeting, I confirmed with both companies that our staff is able to do any warranty work. That's a nice plus. The only time that they would have to do warranty work is if it's something major, like an or something like that, where they would bring in a mechanic to work on it if it was a warranty issue. Battery and fuel cost, it's $40,000 for a lead acid electric machine, because every 5 years you have to plan to purchase new batteries. Lithium ions are planned for every 10 years, but again, it's untested, so it could be more frequent. And then the $25,000 for propane is using the monthly cost that I've spent so far this year on propane fuel. New machine needed, it repeats the cycle for the electric machines, because again, the max lifespan is 20 years. And then finally, the total cost for 40 years is pretty self-explanatory. The overall cost difference being pretty significant, with the electric models figuring out to over $500,000, and the propane comes out to just over 200,000. I also included some figures for a lease option. The lease is only for an electric machine because of the short lifespan and also the high maintenance costs. Logically, a lease for a propane model just doesn't make sense. A propane model should really just be viewed as a long-term investment. As with most purchases, there's positives and negatives to both. Myself, my staff, the entire DPW crew, we've pretty much agreed on what resurfacer we would prefer, mainly for the ease of maintenance. That would be a propane model, because really there's a reason why that Olympia propane machine is still running. It's very reliable. We can complete basic maintenance tasks. We can even do major repairs. 2 weeks ago was a perfect example. Having the convenience to drive that machine up to DPW, we broke it all down and we fixed it all in one morning, and we didn't have to lose any ice revenue. So you can't beat that convenience factor. There is, some concerns about emission with a propane model. So I also included in the packet, it's a signed executive order from the California EPA and the Air Resources Board, which states that the maximum allowed exhaust standards is 20.6 grams per kilowatt hour for carbon monoxide. And the engines used in the propane model is certified at 7.0. So that's measuring the tailpipe exhaust. Now, the reason why it's from California is Zamboni headquarters is in California. So these machines have some pretty strict exhaust standards. Now, as it pertains to actually air quality inside the rink, the United States Ice Rink Association recommends a maximum of 20 parts per million when measuring carbon monoxide. And New York State has actually had they've had a piece of legislation that has been in discussion since 2012, and they only require a minimum of 30 parts per million. And with the help of Mayor Dalton and some fire equipment, we actually were able to test our 1986 propane machine. We just did that, last week, I think. So we resurfaced the ice, and we averaged out the carbon monoxide reading throughout the entire rink. And our average was 19.75 parts per million with one resurface. We then immediately retested it. The mayor recalibrated. We did another resurfacing, and we did find out that the carbon monoxide level spiked. But our average was still below the OSHA standards of 50 parts per million for an 8-hour workday. So that was really nice to get that information, because on a normal day, we only do one ice cut, which keeps our carbon monoxide levels safe for our community and then also our staff. Along with that information, there has also been some major emission improvements in propane models since the 1980s. Surprise, surprise. In fact, I found out that before 2004, there was no certifications and no emission standards for ice resurfacers. So there has been some major upgrades. Also, all these new propane machines, they are installed with emission detectors right in the machine. So if anything is going wrong, you're immediately going to be notified of it. We also have the benefit of having direct exhaust fans, both on the north and the south side of the pavilion. A lot of ice rinks don't have that benefit, so electric is their only option. So really the goal of all the information is just to provide the board with information on electric versus propane models. once we decide which way we're going to go, then we can gather some hard numbers on the add-ons for the resurfacers, because again, they're just base prices. Because some base prices, they include some options in the machine, and then the other company doesn't include those options. So we just need to make sure that we get everything included once we decide propane versus electric. It's also important to know that these resurfacers are just not sitting on a car lot waiting to get picked up. Every single one is custom built to every customer. So the lead time for both manufacturers is 12 to 14 months. For a Zamboni machine, payment is not due until delivery. And as a municipality, we have the option of putting either no money down with a purchase order, or we can pay a $25,000 deposit. The option is up to us for a Zamboni machine. And for an Olympia, a 20% down payment is required in order to order the machine. And then the balance is due on delivery. So 20% will be about $21,000 for a propane model and about 30 for an electric. So I know that is a whole lot of information, but I am happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Anna?
Yeah, thank you for that, and for all of the information and the way you've presented it. One question, I want to make sure I understand where the data on the lifespan of the machine comes from. Is that based on manufacturers?
It's based on the fact that our Zamboni electric one right now is 23 years old and is dead. It's also has a brand new motor that's 13 years old and it's dead. And speaking with Zamboni, our Zamboni service rep, he has never seen a Zamboni like traded in that's more than 20 years because it's not worth anything. Like I talked to him about the possibility of trading in our model that we have now. And he didn't say it wasn't worth anything, but it basically is worth nothing, because in order to get that up and running, they would have to put about $35,000 into it.
And in terms of the Olympia electric machines, what do they say is the lifespan of those machines?
20 years. Yeah, so like I said, both companies, they make both models. Zamboni's bread and butter has always been electric, and Olympia's bread and butter has always been propane. They cross over. But that traditionally that's like where they started, and they crossed over to cover different markets.
So is Olympia's headquarters in California?
Olympia's headquarters is actually in Quebec, and our rep is out of Minnesota.
Okay. So you gave us information in terms of emissions on the Zamboni propane. Okay. Do we have them on the Olympia too? Or do we?
They don't have anything signed. Their emission standards are right there with the Zamboni. They don't have things signed because Zamboni is in California and they're required to have it.
Oh, California's got some of the.
Yeah. You're not going to get stricter in the United States. So.
Right. So, and which I actually really appreciate in terms of emissions for sure. So that makes a difference to me. Regardless of which way we went, do you have a preference in terms of which company for the electric model versus the propane model?
If we went electric, I would go with Zamboni because, like I said, it's. I think they have a better electric machine. I think Olympia has a propane machine.
Okay, so it's a different answer for the different models. Okay.
One thing we would have to be careful of is our purchasing policies. That could come into play here. So we would have to keep that in the back of our minds.
Can you be more specific, Mike?
Well, we have a purchasing policy in place that, you have to get three, for this amount of money, you have to get 3 bids.
I see.
But there's only 2 manufacturers.
I was gonna say, there are only 2
only
manufacturers.
2.
There's not much we can do.
So if, if you're looking at propane, you're gonna have to get 2 bids. If you're
Right.
looking at electric and your lithium ion is the direction you're going, you're gonna need 2 bids. So, you're gonna have to be able to.
And they
compare-
don't fluctuate among vendors or suppliers, or, like I'm looking at
Nope.
CTM services. It's all
See-
the same everywhere?
So CTM is our Olympia representative. So both these companies, they break everything down by region, which breaks it down with sales and also service. And it's a way to protect their brand. So you can't just go to, Walmart and get a store brand or something. You have to go through reps in order to purchase them.
Well, they're
And so
super
the price
specialized,
would be
right?
the same, whoever the rep was, or it's uniform.
Yes, yeah. And the price is uniform, and like I can't call a rep out of California and order a machine because they're just sending them as and say, no, this is your rep. You have to deal with them. And I don't blame them to protect their staff. So that way everybody's getting their commission and all that.
Well, and it's also, I mean, it's a very specialized piece of equipment, much like a fire truck. I mean, the fire trucks companies do the same thing, and they're only a handful. If
Yeah.
not, I know there are 2, at least there might be 3. But they're, hundreds of thousands of dollars into one machine. So, I think that's part of the equation too.
Yeah, well, and especially like 2 weeks ago with the service aspect, I'm able to actually call and talk to a real person who's my service rep and dealing with issues and all that stuff. Cause like you said, but it's very specialized. So like they understand that, and that's why they break it up like they do. So that way everybody's getting personalized experience and making sure that they're getting proper service and proper parts and everything to make sure that their machine is running properly.
In terms of time frame, I know it could be a year to a year and a half, especially with supply chain issues that we've been experiencing recently. What would be your ideal? I know you're going to say as soon as we possibly can, but what would be your ideal time frame in terms of making a move on a purchase like this?
Well, really right now with the time frame with 12 to 14 months, we already know that we're going to be using our Olympia propane for next year.
Sure.
Actually, when we did the emergency repair 2 weeks ago, it was perfect because DPW was under there and they were actually just other parts that were worn out that we can replace this summer so that we're ready to go. I would say that we would need to make a decision within the next 2 or 3 months, because it would be nice to have it shipped to us, maybe by middle of August or something. So that way the staff has time to learn about the machine, because that's the issue that Potsdam's in right now. They just got a brand spanking new machine with all the bells and whistles, and they don't know how to use it. So they have to wait until next year. So now it's just collecting dust. So I think, ideally, if we can find it where we can get that machine into us by August of next year would be perfect, because then our staff has time to learn the machine.
Sure.
And when you spoke about the add-ons, because these are base model prices, I understand that it's going to be different for each one, but can you give a rough, is this a 10% addition that we should be calculating, or 20, 30,
So like a couple of things. So with at the pavilion for our setup, like a left-handed dump, a snow dump. So the big front is all full of snow. So a left-handed snow dump works for the pavilion, which is what the Olympia has, because that's where our grate is. So that would be an add-on. And then also like an example of how the two companies are different, like Olympia and their base price, they include 4 blades. So on the back of the resurfacer is a giant blade, like a giant shaving blade, huge. And so they send 4 when you order one, where Zamboni, when you order a new one, they only send 2. And so to put in perspective, we need at least 8 of those in order for us to go through a season. And you use one blade about every 1 week, 1 week and a half. And we have a specialized sharpener in Madrid that sharpens those. But you need 8 of them because he can't just sharpen them all in one day and bring them back to you. It takes a long time. So we usually, once we have 4 dull blades, we're bringing 4 up to him. And then by a month later, we're replacing them. We're getting 4 sharp ones back, and then we're giving him 4 dull ones. So it's kind of a dance to make sure we make it through the season without any delays.
So in terms of electric versus propane, and I guess I'm assuming based on everything you said, if we went electric, we'd go lithium ion. So between that and the Olympia propane, do you have any sense, just sort of off the top of what the prices of each of those would be when we figure in the add-ons?
It's not going to be astronomical, maybe 5,000 more, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not going to be like, oh, an extra 60 because we want fancy things, but it's just little quirks because, like I said, like
Right.
Olympia floor blades, and a blade is $250 to $300 each. So like
Right.
Olympia 4, Zamboni includes 2. So we just need to make sure that when we decide which fuel, electric or propane, once we decide which way we're going to go, then we can really dive in and get equal bids from both companies and then go from
Right.
there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to get a sense because, are we looking at, because I was thinking, the add-ons for the Olympia could increase that more than maybe the add-ons for the,
Yeah.
so in terms of
Right.
comparing, so
Right.
it's really minimal though. So that's not a issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Figuring out if we're going the electric or the propane route, because then we get our proper bids or quotes. It's not really a bid system.
Right.
Is there anybody in the area who has a newer propane model? And I mean area as in like a tri-county region.
I would say Norfolk, and then also Lake Placid. They ordered 6 brand new machines, and I believe 3 of them are propane.
Okay.
So a lot of big operations like Lake Placid, they always have propane models because the electric ones die.
So you would have a resource, like if you wanted to go like check them out.
Oh yeah.
Or felt like you needed to go check them out, you could do that pretty locally. Okay. Well, that's good.
Do we have any sense from the town in which way, because this would be a shared purchase, am I correct, folks? Okay, so do we have any sense from the town how they're leaning? Or has that come up in discussions on the rec committee yet, or?
I would say after the presentation that I did last week, they didn't come out and tell me which way or the other.
Okay.
I think my guess is they're looking at the numbers.
Sure.
Which it's hard to ignore. When you look at the base price, you're like, oh, okay. But then when you really break it down, it's kind of shocking.
In my opinion, after this presentation here and after the town's presentation, the rec committee would go back to it and make a recommendation is
Yep.
really where that should happen. They should sit down with Megan and then make a decision and bring it back to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I would hope that that their board after that, would talk among themselves or provide whatever feedback they can to their committee members, and we'll bring it all back. I think that's exactly right.
The last comment that I have is that I'm just fascinated by the emissions on our 26-year-old, or 36-year-old Olympia. I would love to see what a newer model like at Norwood, what their emissions are, look like. Because I know technology is going to impact that for sure.
Yeah,
but that's important for me to know.
Yeah, I think even Norwood's, it's not like brand spanking new. I think they have a Zamboni propane, and I think it's like 6 or 7 years old. But what shocked me when I was speaking with our reps is that there was no quality standards for these before 2004.
Yeah,
Like
it's crazy.
that just baffles me. But it also, once we tested our machine, it gave me a lot of reassurance knowing that, wow, so even though it was built in the 80s, it's still under 20 parts per million, which is recommended by the Rink Association. So it's positive in that way to know that, okay, we're safe while we're using our machine. So that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a pretty good
absolutely.
sign that that older one is still under the limit. That's,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm still curious in terms of the newer models.
Yeah, it's neat. They were saying, because it's basically set up like a car right now. So like the 86 model that we have, it doesn't have a catalytic converter, which helps with emissions. And so the new ones all have catalytic converters.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so it would be,
they could be way better. They could be way
Yeah.
safer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the
My guess is, go ahead.
manufacturers, they can't give us air quality numbers because it all depends on your building.
Right.
Ah,
So that's where, like at the pavilion, we're very, very fortunate. We have both of those fans.
oh, we have
And
those fans. Yeah.
Yeah, and when we did the test, we only had one of the fans on. And so that's, it's very reassuring in that regard to know that, it's a safety blanket knowing that we have those fans and, we turn them on and we don't have to worry about any emission affecting our staff and then also affecting the community.
Yeah. Well, and that
know-
rink isn't a super tight.
No,
Yeah. Got some airflow.
it just has a big wind block next to it.
I would just like to offer, to our members of the RAC committee, just, sort of these thoughts about this, just as I'm thinking about it. The numbers really are very hard to ignore. And when you think about long-term, planning, having said that, 20 years or, 20 years from now or 40 years from now, first of all, it certainly would be in all of our best interests if we were not reliant on fossil fuels, first of all. Second of all, in 20 or 40 to 40 years, surely our battery technology is going to be so much better that these costs aren't going to be our actual costs. I'm just putting that out there. I don't know where I fall personally, but those are just things I hope the committee also thinks about.
Oh, on that note, glad you mentioned that. The other thing that's not in the electric numbers is when you get new batteries, you have to buy a new charger, which is about $10,000. It's so like if we ever got in a situation where like we didn't have a resurfacer, like St. Lawrence and SUNY Canton, they can't come and help us because our charger doesn't work on their machine. So it's quite complicated, and that's why when St. Lawrence gifted that electric to us, that's why John Tayo and Larry did not get rid of that propane, because that propane has bailed out St. Lawrence Canton many times.
And just as a clarifying point, not that this is a huge deal, but that was actually a donation from the Coca-Cola company, and then St. Lawrence.
Pepsi, just to be sure they get
Oh,
the right.
Sorry, Pepsi.
No,
Thank
I actually talked to Pepsi and I figured out what that was. So Pepsi bought that machine for St. Lawrence.
Right.
And in turn, they paid it back through Pepsi sales at the rink. And when it came to us, I verified it with Pepsi because I wanted to make sure. I'm like, do you own this machine or do we own it? And they said, no, when St. Lawrence transferred it to you, St. Lawrence owned it because St. Lawrence is able to get rid of it at that point because they made it up for it in Pepsi sales. So it was, and of course, I kind of put a bug in the ear. It's like, oh, is this another option maybe that Pepsi could buy us a new machine? But unfortunately, I don't think our Pepsi sales would make up the difference.
Well, anyway, I appreciate the fact that, local businesses are
Oh, yeah.
helpful in these kinds of ventures. And we just wanted to make sure that we gave credit to that
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. Even though I misspoke and
To the right soda company.
job, Megan, putting all that information together for us. That's just spectacular.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, but I know it's a lot of information, so if stuff pops up, feel free to reach out to me. I know some of the board members, they've already had a couple questions. They've called me, so you know where to find me if you have questions.
Yep.
Okay,
And I would say, for sure, Klaus and Anna and Mike, get your thoughts to Beth and me. We'll let you know when we're gonna meet with the rec committee and hammer this out.
Great.
sounds good. Anything else? Okay. Megan, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay, next item on our agenda is the cost of electricity for our EV chargers. This is something that we had promised last month to look at, and Sally put together a comparison of our bills over the course of well, almost 2 years now. There's a big jump at one point here. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's when the high rate charger went in, or is when the some of what National Grid was giving us ended.
It has something to do with the pandemic letting up some and increased travel, Mike. I think that was part of it. Both chargers started operating at the same time, so there was no difference in that. So I think it was mostly an increase of traffic and increased usage is the resulted in the greater kilowatt hour usage.
And up till now, those are charges that we have been eating ourselves, I guess.
Yep, that's correct.
So we've been paying the bill, and the people that use that aren't paying a user fee. How does that work if we decide to start charging a user fee?
People would need to start using a credit card and tapping a spot on the charger, and then that would automatically be charged to their credit card. Let me add a bit of information into this scenario. I've been talking to NYPA, the Power Authority, and we have an option of hosting 2 new fast chargers, real fast chargers, 2 to 4 times as fast as our fast charger. And they would be virtually free if we decide to do that. And they could be added to the Hotskin Street site. That's probably our most likely bet, since we don't have a really ready other site. And so those would be handled by NYPA, and people would use a credit card to pay for their charge there. And NYPA would handle the whole thing. They would have a meter, and they would essentially pay our electric bill. They would get the money from the people charging, and they would pay us the full electric bill. So all we would be doing is hosting it. We would have, they would handle maintenance, they would handle liability, they would handle everything, and we would purely just be hosting it. We would have to agree to keep the snow plowed at the site. That our only responsibility would be keeping the snow removal, which is pretty minimal. So that's something we can, if we chose to do that, we could at the same time do the charging deal on our existing chargers. In other words, start charging, or at the least on our fast charger. When we get the new ones installed, then have them all be pay, since the 2 new ones will be, pay ones. So that's something we can consider. And
are you talking about replacing what's there with new?
Well, no, I mean, we could conceivably replace one of them if we had a good spot for another one, which is actually something we could consider. For instance, if we wanted to have a charger, say at the pavilion, for example, or next to our municipal building, if we decided we want, or anywhere we wanted, we could move one of our existing ones and put the two new ones there, or we could simply add the two new ones, which would take 4 parking spaces, which is a consideration as well. I mean, the lot right now is not completely full every day, which it was before the pandemic, but that is something to consider. Do we want to lose 4 parking spaces, or do we want to consider moving one of ours to another location, which in the future, it would be real handy to have a charger at the pavilion, for example, or at, near the municipal building. So that's something to think about. And I'll continue to be working with NIPA on this. So I welcome your feedback and input. And, we'll be discussing it further with the infrastructure committee. So, let me know if you have thoughts on that, or if you have a thought on another location. Riverside Drive, the Bell, where Bell's was, that's a possibility. If we didn't have major other plans, that could be a charging station, right? There's a power pole with 3-phase power right in the middle of that lot. That could be a location too. So that's just another option to think about.
Well, sorry, Anna, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, first of all, I think putting one at the pavilion is a good idea. Rather, I would like to spread them out more than put them all at Hodgkin personally. I had a couple of questions though, and maybe, Sally, is there a way to split out the fast charger from the slow charger so that we can see the charges on those?
We can't hear. I don't know, Klaus, if
Charge
someone else
Point
can.
Charge
Because we
Point
get-
can sort that out if we wanted.
Because we only get one
have
bill for
one
both.
meter, but they know what each charger uses, and I'll contact them if we wanted that information. My guess go ahead.
That would be helpful, because one thing we could consider doing is charging for the fast chargers, but not the slow.
That's what I
Right?
was
So that
thinking
would
as
still
well.
be providing a service.
Yep, it would be real
and-
nice to provide that one, the slower charger for free, and the cost to us is pretty minimal on that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing less than $20 a month on the slow charger.
And my other question is just to ask, Sally, if you have this in an Excel sheet easily, could I get my hands on that so I could just play with the numbers a little bit and get a better understanding of what we're looking at here?
Absolutely. I'll send that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think part of our discussion tonight was, do we need to start billing customers for this? Because it's an expense, and it depends on our commitment to this type of fuel. But there'll have to come a time where it isn't all free.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I was, encouraging the freeze for the first year was my thought, to encourage the use and till we got going. So absolutely, we could switch. If we are thinking of moving our existing fast charger to the pavilion, it might make sense to wait until the new ones are installed and then do the charging deal, rather than get it all set up and then in a month or two move it, somewhere else and change the deal. But we can, at any point, we can make them, charge customers.
I think we do need to be careful of infrastructure at some of these locations. The likely place for it at the pavilion is in the parking lot. However, there's question about where 3-phase power is. So, I think that, infrastructure wise, we're going to have to be careful.
Yep, definitely. Wherever we put them, this distance from a 3-phase pole is a big cost consideration. If you have to dig a trench, that's very expensive. And so that's absolutely a consideration.
So where do you want to go, board? Table it until there's more information, or?
I think we play out this NIPA offer and see how that works, if it's gonna happen and where, and how we balance out that and moving things around. I also wonder what's involved with moving the chargers. Is that a big thing, or do you just pick it up and plop it somewhere else?
It's not a real big thing, but National Grid would have to prepare the power situation for the new location. Like they would have to come out
Mhm.
to the pavilion and set up an entrance for the charger. And I've talked to them also. They'll do that virtually for free too. They have this make ready program, which is all part of encouraging EV use. And
Yeah.
they will do that practically for free. But that is something that would have to be done at any new location we did. Even at Hodgkin Street, they would have to increase the power size for the new chargers. It would require National Grid to be involved to make that ready for additional chargers.
Do we have any way of getting data on who is using the chargers? And the reason I'm asking this is because I'm curious as to, are these mostly our residents, or are these mostly people passing through?
They're mostly business owners on Main Street plugging in their
Interesting.
EVs. Yeah. The slow chargers in use more days than not, that's in use. And it's people that have EVs that own stores along Main Street largely, is just my observation. People traveling through, there has been increased use of the fast charger, but not, most days that's not running. The other one is in use, and the fast charger is usually just sitting there. But I have seen it, several times it's been in use, so there is some travel use of it, but so far kind of minimal.
Klaus, when you ask for the data, can you get, ask ChargePoint for any kind of user data that they have
Yep.
that they'd be willing to share,
Sure, I will do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
The one thing that would give user data is if you were billing.
Right.
No,
It
I
sure
think
would, wouldn't it?
ChargePoint does anyway, but
Well, that's what I'm
I do
thinking.
ChargePoint, and I have an account, and I go over to St. Lawrence and I do that for free.
Mhm.
But it knows who I am. I suspect you can get some good data from them.
Yep,
Yeah.
I will ask
It knows who
Absolutely.
you are, huh?
hmm
that.
I mean, I assume so, because I have, oh God, my mother's calling me again. I'm just gonna have to do this, okay? I'm really sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, at
Yeah.
any rate, okay, we'll,
Yeah, let's
Let this play out with
discuss it
NIPA.
in the next infrastructure meeting, and we'll kick it around and we'll look at the location. I'd like to have Mike, you and Anna come out and look at the spots. And
Oh.
anybody else who's interested or, who wants to give us some input. We'll look at what our options are, and then continue working with NIPA and get some new chargers.
Just for
Okay.
your information,
Yeah.
I might talk to Tim. There's a permit out for the bank down the road to put in electric chargers. So
Which apartment?
to Tim, the code officer,
Oh, where are the apartments that are getting them?
and not the apartments at the bank. The bank on Main Street, the one on the corner. Is Tim around? Tim?
Which corner on Main Street?
The, right across the street from, Parker Brothers.
Who
Bank-
brothers?
the bagel place, the bagelry.
It's
Oh.
the community bank or
Okay,
country
Oh.
bank for savings.
Oh, okay.
They,
They're
it
getting
hasn't been,
chargers there?
there's a permit, but they haven't installed it
Mhm.
because the rebate ran out.
Oh. Mhm.
So it's, I think it's community bank or country bank.
no, it's the one across the street.
Yeah,
North Country, is that it? Tim,
North Country Savings?
that's
Yes.
it.
I think so.
Okay,
It's the, back there where they have that, that connection from one building to the next. The, that roof structure that connects the building on Main Street to the one on
Oh.
Court Street.
okay, yeah.
So right where that, covered walkway connects to the
Mhm.
branch on Court Street
Yep.
is where they're planning to put it. But they
Mhm.
have a permit, but they haven't done
Mhm.
that yet. And also United Helpers is planning to put one in over by the and the University Plaza site. United Helpers.
Oh, great. Oh, that would be a perfect spot for it. That would be
Yeah,
a wonderful.
Are they gonna have to use their credit card? Or are they free to the
I'm
public?
sure there'll be credit card ones.
Okay,
I'm sure there'll be pay ones, yeah.
okay.
But
The
that's
one
a
in
great
the,
spot.
the village of Messina has you have to use your credit card,
Mhm.
charge your vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Klaus, you'll update us
Yep.
next month on where you're at. with this thing,
Absolutely.
please.
We'll be continuing to work on it and gathering more information.
Okay. Next item is to discuss a reserve fund for the future purchase of a DPW truck. I sent some information out to you because of, as with everything, there's a really long period of time for us to get one of these delivered. Supply chain is really a problem. Sally tells me we have to call this a reserve for encumbrance fund. And what I've done, I showed you a way out of this year's budget that we can put $73,000 away towards this purchase that I wouldn't expect to see probably until the fall of 2003. We can do some anticipation in the next budget to help fund this, but 73,000 will get us probably halfway there. I did send out to you the estimate for the vehicle itself and the required box and hoist and the other equipment that would go with it. So this would put us right where we need to be and would anticipate the future purchase. I'd like to use funds out of the capital fund that were earmarked in a different way that will go towards this purchase. As when I put it out, I think several board members commented, good idea. Wanted to make sure that you want me to pursue this. This has to be in the form of a resolution. And before we went and wrote the resolution and did that work, I just wanted to make sure that we were going to move forward. Comment, thought?
If I can, I just, just to say that the 73,000 is by not making other capital purchases that we had planned for, but that really don't necessarily, like, that we can deprioritize those in favor of this, which is a pretty critical need. Our truck is limping along thanks to the expertise and hard work of our crew, is my understanding, Mayor.
That is correct. I've had extensive talks with the foreman down there at DPW, and some of the equipment that we're looking to not purchase this year, they had prioritized a little bit differently. I think now that the foreman has a chance to really drill down on some things in the operation, this is where we found some savings.
Mhm.
So just for clarification, you said that because of supply chain and all of that, if we do go ahead and purchase, would we actually see the truck or hopefully see the truck in 2023?
That would be what we anticipate. What we're hearing from the manufacturers that ordered now, we're looking at the fall of 2023.
Okay, So we would order it now in hopes to get it.
Yeah,
by
we
then.
would make a commitment now. Wouldn't cost us any money to make the commitment.
Sure.
But they would get it in the manufacturing loop. We would reserve the money in a reserve fund. And we would take care of that, save for it that way.
Right.
And we can establish that fund to do that kind of thing. In next year's budget negotiations, as we look at this, we can set aside a little bit more money so that over the course of, what's left of this budget year, next budget year, and then the following, we'll have the expense covered,
Sure.
which is a nice way to be able to operate. Any other questions on that? Okay, what we'll do is a resolution that will be set to pass next month. I don't know, Jerry, do we have to do anything special for this, or are we all set? Other than doing.
I'll talk to Sally to get the resolution drafted up. You can do a public hearing if you want, but I don't think you need to. I'll check that for you to see.
Okay, if we have to, we'll just add it to the agenda.
Thank you.
Is it helpful to do it before the meeting next month? Will it make that much difference in terms of ordering it?
I don't, let me talk to the foreman and see. I think if they know we're gonna do this and you're in favor of doing it, we can probably make a verbal commitment that, this is the plan, this is when it'll all be approved, and we can be ready to go. I don't want to, technically order it until the resolution passes, but if everybody's in favor of this concept, we'll let them know that this is where we're going.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was, critical to get it in, before we meet next month is all.
Well, I'd like to get it done this month, but it just takes time.
Okay.
With travel and everything, this coming week, a lot of people are going to be gone.
Yep, nope, that's fine. I just wanted to,
So
I'm agreeable to meeting again to make it happen if we need to.
Okay, for now, I have consensus that we're going to move forward on this anyway. So,
Yep, sounds good to me.
okay, we'll get that prepared and we'll be ready to roll. Thank you. Okay, next item is to approve Tim Nolan to attend the 2022 Code Conference in Lake Placid, which is scheduled coming up February 28th, March 3rd. Are those accurate dates?
That is correct.
Okay, and this keeps you current with your training requirements, Tim?
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Carol and Anna, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I
Next
gotta
time
say,
on
the
it-
location's unfortunate.
That's where they have it every year, though.
That's too bad.
Next item on the agenda is,
Well, thank you very much.
you'll be thinking of us, I'm sure.
I will.
Next item on the agenda is to set the budget calendar. Sally got that out. What's it look like for you? Seem appropriate for now?
I'm sure we'll have to add more dates.
Mhm.
But this was just a draft to get something started, and people can check their calendars and see what they've got available.
So as we go down this path, we'll add to it as needed.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's going to depend on timing for these different days for me. So, I can't, like, if these are evening meetings, then, 6:30, then certainly, I can make these things happen. But if we're hoping for, other times, then there's going to need to be a little bit more coordination.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't put times on here at all.
Okay, all right.
So I think as, as
Where
we
did
head
I
in-
miss this list of dates?
What's that, Carol?
I said, where did I miss the list of dates? I don't see that.
It's in the meeting packet.
Draft budget calendar.
I must have just slipped right by it. Okay, I'm going. Go ahead. Pardon me.
So the beginning of that will be the run up to our regular monthly meeting, and then you have this schedule that you'll be able to, we'll be able to refine it at our next month meeting. And then, Anna, you'll be able to let us know what works for you.
Mhm.
Then we'll go from there, and we'll just add in as we need to.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry that I
that
missed
works.
that.
And so I guess what I'm thinking is if the estimates are due to the treasurer and the mayor on the 2nd from departments, then, committees might want to meet with their department heads, their respective department heads between the 2nd and the 14th. Is that about right?
Well, yeah, anytime you want to meet with departments, that's fine.
To go, right, just if we
But-
want to sort of drill down with departments and,
And each
make suggestions.
each of them have received the forms. Usually the biggest part of that is what you're doing on the larger items,
The capital,
capital type stuff. So
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, the next item G was to accept the resignation of Tracy Fuller. Just after she got appointed last month, she had gotten a job that was within 5 minutes of her home. And apparently that suited her better, so she resigned. We need a motion to accept her resignation, which wasn't very long. It was pretty much I resigned and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, next item on the agenda was I wanted to put out the NICOM meeting. A few of us attended the NICOM meeting this past week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and I go pretty regular to these things. I sit on a policy committee, so I have a chance to get some input into the Energy and Environment Committee. Anna and Carol also went, and they'll speak up here when I guess the time is right. But we always seem to get good information when we go to these things. It was a discussion about the upcoming executive budget and information about our AIM funding and the way the state or way the executive is looking to change how AIM funding is done. It's not going to be done with withholding sales tax anymore. Our AIM funding will stay the same according to her budget. There's increases in many areas and things of interest to us and others, from water and sewer infrastructure funding. Restore New York is another piece, and they're talking about dividing out some money for Restore New York for smaller communities, so that there would be smaller pieces of money that would sounds like be spread around a little bit differently. So there's quite a bit for environmental, extended producer responsibility for packaging. That was something that is also come up in the Energy and Environment Committee. There's some legislation out there to change the deposit on bottles from 5 cents to 10 cents. It includes more types of bottles and containers. Where that goes, we don't know yet. But this producer responsibility piece, especially for electronics, seems to be gaining traction, so that the producer of electronics is required to take them back. Much like, there's a fee for tires, there'd probably be a fee for electronics. Apparently, in some areas, there's a problem with paper and packaging, but carpets, for some reason, keeps coming up in the conversation. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that comes about from the energy and environment piece. I've only been on that committee now for a little while, so the more I go, the more I learn. And there's a lot of work that will be done with our representatives. Certain representatives are better at this, or more interested in this than others. There's a lot more coming also with water and lead and requirements that are coming from the feds about lead in our drinking water. There may be some things that we're going to have to do or ensure for our consumers. Last I knew, we were in pretty good shape around here, but we'll have to see what some of the federal regulations. I went to things like the implementation of cannabis in our community. And I went to a labor relations seminar and a meeting seminar. So there's a number of things that I found interesting and will help in as we move forward. I know Anna and Carol went several presentations, and if you would like to comment about some of the things that you learned or found, that would be a good time.
Yeah, I will. You talked about a lot of the same things I did. It was interesting to hear the talk of the budget. DiNapoli was there and Hochul was supposed to be there, but she couldn't come at the last minute. But Lieutenant Governor Benjamin was there. They're all feeling very optimistic about the budget, and that there's a lot of federal money coming in. That the state is pretty flush. There's going to be water and sewer infrastructure money, as Mike said. The thing that became clear in some of the other sessions we went to, though, is that the hoops remain. There's a lot of good infrastructure money coming, but it's not any easier to get than the money is now. All the applications and the requirements and a lot of the funding is geared toward low and middle income communities, and our numbers aren't always where they need to be in order to be able to access those. So it's exciting. There's a lot of good stuff. There was a really positive feeling there, but we still have work to do, that's for sure. Same with Mike, went to the cannabis legislation one there. That's just a work in progress. I went to a session on ARPA, and they reviewed the final rules. And the interesting thing about that is, of course, we all have the amount of money that we're going to get, but they've really added a lot of flexibility to what you're entitled to, what you can legitimately pay for with that money. We have, I think, Mike, we decided about 600,000 over for the 2 years. And it's a lot. It's 650 a lot broader. So, we'll need to really, figure out the best way to, manage what money we may have coming to us. There is an April 30th reporting deadline on that, even if you have not spent anything yet. So that's something I know Mike will be looking at. Mike and I went to the last session we went to was on running meetings and divisive times. It made us realize that I came away thinking we do a good job. Mike does a good job. But one of the things that really impressed me was that they reminded us that these meetings are for us to get our business done. And this is a pretty good example. I know people get, it's long meetings and people get, frustrated that people go on and on, or that there's a lot going on, but this is our one chance once a month to conduct business together. you know, that we can all be in the same place, we can all talk to each other. And so I think that it's important to really appreciate this time and use this time. And I've never had the feeling that any board members are, you know, chomping at the bit and trying to get away, but that this is an important time for us. And it sort of made me appreciate that a little more. And I guess the only other thing I would say is that it was a really good meeting. It was great to be there. It was nice to be there with Mike and Anna and sort of sometimes be hearing the same thing, sometimes different things, comparing notes. The next one is in May at the Sagamore. And I think it would be great if we could get a good Canton contingent to go to that. Be good to get everybody there to really dig in. So that's what I got. And my headphones are running out.
If I can just add in, I went to the Labor Relations Policy Committee when we, you know, first arrived. And I don't know if that clicking is that my AirPods are going, but anyway, which was just an interesting, some of it didn't relate, but, you know, some interesting discussions about civil service reform and, you know, some movement to try to get, you know, to add, you know, rather than the rule of 3 to try to add to that so that we can get some deeper pools. So some interesting conversation there, a conversation about, you know, COVID-19 leave time, including leave times for vaccine. Actually went to 2 separate labor relations type sessions where this came up. So that seems to be quite a hot topic. Another hot topic was discussion about EMS response time, and in particular, the really challenging time that emergency services is having around the state, and I would imagine the country, quite frankly, in terms of recruitment. So some discussions there. So that was interesting. I will also say that I went to a presentations about housing and community renewal. And, you know, there was some review of, you know, programs, many of which I think, you know, I felt fairly familiar with at this point, like CDBG and so forth. But also, you know, learn some new things, like there are some programs for manufactured homes to try to get those, you know, rehabbed as need be. Some other, you know, some other programs that, you know, may have some possibilities as we are going through the housing strategic planning process. I will say, however, one of the things that bothered me through this conversation is really coming to the realization that the North Country seems to be kind of forgotten in discussions from these agencies. You know, they talk about what's happening in the capital region, what's happening in Western New York, and certainly what's happening in the city, but there is often very little, if any, mention of what is happening north of Albany. And so that was just something that I personally, you know, caught on to. And, you know, I am certainly not the first. I would also, you know, the Restore New York program is coming back, which allows for rehab for elderly folks, for senior folks, which is something we might be able to make use of here. I would just second what both the mayor and Carol said about the, you know, the budget general sessions. Those were really interesting to hear sort of, you know, a little bit more depth about the budget and about the sort of pros and cons of different things, and you know, the policy proposals that various folks are putting forward. But I do want to say, you know, to Carol's point about the difficulty of getting our hands on the money. This is particularly striking to me because I attended the session on accessing infrastructure money. And there were folks there from DOT and from the EFC, which I'm not going to be able to tell you what that stands for. But anyway, so there are lots of funds there is a lot of funding. There's a lot of money available. There's very little that is easily accessible. There are a lot of steps. You have to be put on intended use programs, which means you have to have all of your pre-engineering done. If you don't have the money to pay for your pre-engineering, then you've got to apply for money for your pre-engineering. That pushes your project out years, right? So, I mean, it's just the layers and layers to even get to the point where you're actually applying in hopes of receiving these grants. There are some loan programs that might be of interest to us. There's this new pave over potholes program that has been proposed in the budget that, you know, could is a new reimbursement program that could help. But ultimately, you know, one of the things that was discussed that really makes sense to me is the fact that we don't have an infrastructure funding plan in the same way that we have CHIPS, right? So there's no reimbursement program that just we are allotted by means of some formula. It's all about, applying and, writing the best grants and this, that, and the other thing. And it's yeah, I will say there is a program for changing over our water meters that is 90% reimbursement though. So I'll be chatting with Klaus about that. And then last, I went to a session on vacant and abandoned properties, which was really, interesting in terms of thinking about ways that different communities are handling this and, with an eye towards not just, sort of cleaning things up or addressing code issues, but also in terms of community and economic development and community renewal, and some interesting things with land banks that folks are doing to try to address these things. So I don't know what comes from that besides it was interesting, but it's all good stuff. And I really agree that it's important for us to, to be able to take advantage of these opportunities, because to be able to hear what other communities are doing, to hear what, sort of the policy experts are thinking about and proposing and how their analysis is super helpful then for us when we're drilling down and trying to say, okay, what pot of money do we find? Like, how should we prioritize our needs? What's the general sort of outlook in terms of funding? Yeah, I'll leave it there, but I think those are the things that I did.
A lot of good things. Get a chance to learn some of these things when you go to these conferences. So when the next round of comes out, we'll make sure everybody knows. I think you're all on the mailing list anyways, but okay. Last item under new business is the school safety meeting. I carved this out a little bit from just a something under committee reports. There's a couple of specific things that are going to happen, and I wanted to make sure they were noted. The school announced, I think, at one of their meetings that they will be changing the direction of students' flow at the end of Farmer Street and on State Street, the way they cross. And they're going to try that, I think, early in March, probably the 1st of March. They are going to make sure it's announced, make sure, notices go home. And crossing guards, the plan is to move the kids across Farmer Street up to the next crossing and then have them cross State Street in front of where the elementary and the school district offices are. So we're trying to do some improvements in safety there. There's other discussions that Klaus will bring up or has brought up about, they're looking at raised crosswalk there that help define it. The other thing that came up and is going to be tried is that stoplight that's the bane of some people's existence, and switching that to a flashing yellow and leaving it as a flashing yellow. I talked to regional director today about that signal, and his statement was it's not allowed on the state system. The way that's set up, it wouldn't be allowed. It's not appropriate for use really anywhere, according to him, but it's there. There is a history on that. I guess something happened there back years ago when a child got killed up there. that was before my time. So at any rate, part of what's going to happen is they will change the direction of flow of how the kids cross. We're going to change the light over to a flashing amber at the same time, so that there's no confusion about people coming out of that parking lot and what's happening out there in the street. So the future for that is, as Klaus said earlier, is that we're looking at, sidewalks, pathways, that type of thing, and improving, method of transport up there. We're also looking at how warning has been done in Norwood, Norfolk, and Route 56 about lights at both ends that flash only during the school year, the school day, and other ways to slow traffic down. So that was the gist of what I wanted to make sure we carved out here in our meeting, so that people understood maybe a little bit more clearly some of the specifics that we're talking about there. The chief was there, as was Klaus. Carol, you have a question?
I do. I all of that sounds really great, and I'm glad that there's all this attention being given to safety and speeds and complete street things up there. But I want to be absolutely sure that the conversation about the path from the school down to the ball fields gets attention in time, that it stays on the agenda and on the conversation block, so that, in the process of, it keeps happening to us over and over again, that projects happen, we think we're going to be a part of it, and then we're not. And I want to just be sure that isn't allowed to get lost in any shuffle.
I think that I understand that comment and the concern. It's the same concern I think we all have. Toby was at that meeting also. And what we're doing is scheduling meetings, follow-up meetings. So I think if we do this right, we'll be back at them, again in a follow-up meeting in the following month. So that's what we're attempting to do.
Yeah, we'll keep that on the front burner, Carol, for sure. We're meeting in March, and we'll be
And so you
continuing.
are meeting again. That was a question I had. Great. So there's a next meeting,
in
a follow-up
March,
meeting scheduled.
And we'll keep on that path. Absolutely.
Okay.
That was the intention to, when we do a meeting, we'll plan the next meeting so that, we keep this, keep the momentum going, I guess you would say.
Yep.
It's like Tim has his hand up. Tim?
Well, he figures that out. I just wanted to say that particular path, Carol, is something that I've been really supportive of too. And we can all encourage our board members for the school board to pay attention to that as well. So I will continue to make that a point.
Yeah, anybody who knows a board member, lobby for that. The more board members that are aware of it and supportive of it, that'll be helpful. Absolutely.
I have a regular conversation about that with a particular board member.
Great.
Who could that possibly be?
And thank God, is all I can say, for the change in the light. I'm surprised we haven't had an accident up there with the current light that's there. And I appreciate it going back to, we didn't have issues when it was a flashing light before. And it's been there for that light's been there for probably 40 plus years. So
Well,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No,
One
it
there,
really,
similar.
what's that?
Not that one in particular, but.
Right, but there's been a light there.
Yep.
I mean, it was there when I was in elementary school. So anyhow.
Tim, you had a comment?
My comment was about that light, and I know that maybe a metered light might work like they have at St. Lawrence.
No, that actually the one in St. Lawrence is a problem too, and state DOT just hasn't decided to go after them. That's what I got today. And I know that, you know, the police departments don't enforce that light because they can't. It's technically an illegal light. So,
Well, okay. It slows people down in my opinion, but if it's an illegal light, there's nothing I can do.
well, yeah,
Slows me down anyway.
we'll see how, we're going to try it. We're going to see how it goes. That's part of the evaluation of the changes we're making. Any other questions, Anna?
I was just gonna, just to add that I had a conversation with Chief Crow during the sledding engagement event where he brought that up as a concern as well. So, and he also was wondering if metered was possible, but we have the answer to that. And so that's great. And I guess my other one thing, and maybe just something to think about going into the conversations, something that has come up sort of repeatedly when I talk to folks is, it might be great if the crossing guards have this habit of, once all the young people are across and at the school and the buses have been unloaded, they have a habit of holding all of the traffic that's already really been waiting the whole time to allow all the empty buses to exit. And so, it might be nice if there was a way that they could, maybe allow the traffic to flow a little bit, just to sort of clear that up before getting all of the buses out of there. So that just might be something y'all could take to your next conversations.
I think that's been brought up before. They have an explanation for that, but we'll talk about that later. Anything else on this? Okay.
Just thank you.
Well, it's a work in progress and we'll keep after it. So, okay. The next item on our agenda is public comment. I will remind everybody that this is our time that we receive comment. If you're going to make comment, please identify yourself. Limit your comments to 3 minutes and we will listen. That's what this is for. Don, you have your hand up?
I do. And I would respectfully request that I be provided 6 minutes to address the board with some comments that I have.
Go ahead.
Okay. So as I said, my name is John Gray and my daughter Angela and I have operated a business in the heart of downtown Canton for over 21 years. Although I do not vote in Canton because I live in Colton, I am invested in Canton in the following ways. Another partner of mine and I purchased the shuttered eyesore called Gray Lanes at the corner of Riverside Drive and Main Street in the building next door in 2009. At that time, we salvaged a $1.2 million Restore New York grant that was about to expire and be lost. We also invested $1.6 million of our own money to make that building what it is today. At that time, those two properties were generating $5,900 in real estate taxes annually, with about $2,200 going to the village. Today, Ruston Place is generating real estate taxes in the amount of $43,350 per year, of which $9,700 goes to the village. Secondly, I've been the treasurer of the Canton Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors for nearly 20 years. I've been on the Canton Economic Development Steering Committee for almost as long. I'm the treasurer of the Board of Directors of the Canton Capital Resource Corporation. I'm a member of the Housing Task Force, and I have served on various other ad hoc committees over the last 20 years on behalf of the village. I have the following credentials: a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting and an MBA from Clarkson University. I'm a certified public accountant licensed to practice in the state of New York and the state of Florida. I'm a certified global management accountant. I'm a licensed investment advisor, a certified personal financial specialist, and a fellow in the Healthcare Financial Management Association. I do not mention any of this to try to impress anyone or toot my own horn, but rather to demonstrate the members of the village board, that I'm one of the people in the village that, as a result of my educational background, training, and professional experience, is able to understand the magnitude, importance, and severity of the recent scathing and deplorable report released by the New York State Comptroller's Office regarding the Village of Canton finances and the lack of oversight by the village board. Therefore, I feel it is part of my civic duty, and I am compelled to address you this evening. For the past 15 years, I've been on an email list from the Comptroller's Office, by which I am sent a link to all reports issued by that office for all municipalities, school districts, and state authorities. When I became aware of the November report issued on the Village of Canton, I went to the municipal website to see what minutes on the board meeting said regarding this report. There were no minutes posted on the website from after October 1st. Was this just coincidence? Perhaps. I emailed the mayor for a copy of the minutes from October 1st through January 18th, and he emailed those to me within 48 hours, which I appreciated. I was shocked and surprised to see that the minutes did not even have one mention of this report or the response from the village. How could the village receive a 20-page report from the comptroller, highly critical of the lack of board oversight of village financial matters, its board and the village clerk, with no mention in the minutes of the board meetings? The minutes also had no mention of the formal 5-page response dated October 20th, 21 from the village to the comptroller's office. Was this discussed by the village board in an illegal meeting or in executive session? Executive session would also have been illegal, since this topic does not qualify for executive session under Public Officers Law 105.1. This is a total lack of transparency and accountability at best regarding this matter. After the report was sent to a local reporter and made the local press, the mayor was quoted by WWNY news release as saying none of us were here at the time. Yet it's a fact that the mayor has been mayor for the last 6 years and on the village board since 2010. The deputy mayor has held that position for over 6 years, and the village clerk with a salary of almost $80,000 per year has been in that position for over 25 years. The most recent audit covered the period June 1st, 19 through July 31st, 2021, less than 3 years ago. The latest report was a follow-up to a previous report produced by the comptroller with many of the same problems and lack of financial oversight issued in 2012, 9 years ago. The report was placed on the agenda for the January 19th, 22 under old business, despite the fact that it had never been on a previous agenda or discussed at a public meeting. It finally appeared on the agenda for that meeting because, as the mayor stated, he had been interviewed several times after the report became public in the press. The deputy mayor stated at that meeting that it was important for people to remember that when they see articles and headlines, they are just headlines. I would recommend that the residents pay little attention to news articles or headlines and instead go online to the comptroller's local government website and read the entire report from themselves. They will be shocked and mortified regarding how our village is being administered, especially in regard to financial matters, and now with a total lack of transparency on this issue until they were caught by the press releases. The deputy mayor also stated, it is not that we have been sitting on the report, we just had not gotten any notice that it had been released yet. It would seem that if anyone on the village board was taking this matter seriously, they would have frequently checked the comptroller's website, as the report had been released on November 24th, 2021, 56 days prior to it being put on the board agenda. Many have wondered why Canton has been passed over several times for the $10 million in DRI funding, when many people have spent a tremendous amount of time and effort and worked very hard to produce an extremely strong, competitive, and detailed proposal to submit to the state. Will the state give $10 million to a municipality that does not have its financial affairs in order, with little or no financial oversight by the governing board, and has not completed required annual reports to the state for nearly a decade? The Tree Committee, Complete Streets, and Sustainability, and other committees are wonderful projects, but the members of the village board have a fiduciary responsibility to manage and oversee the financial aspects of the village. The comptroller's office points out that this fiduciary responsibility has not been met going back over many years. Perhaps the village board members should ask Village Attorney Ducharme to explain to them what kind of personal liability each board member has for not carrying out their fiduciary responsibility and oversight. As a result of the lack of transparency regarding the comptroller's recent report, as well as the neglect of the fiduciary responsibility and oversight regarding the finances of the village by the village board, I am tonight publicly calling for the resignation of all those involved. I hope you will take this request seriously. The village of Canton and the village taxpayers deserve much better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, there being none, I need a motion to go into executive session. For item H, the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property.
So moved.
So moved.
Was there a
Second.
second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I think that we should make a statement that's brief and to the point and states our case. Do you have any pointers, Jerry, for like a jumping off spot?
I think you can maybe start off with the fact that you all cooperated with the assessor's audit. Everyone.
Comptroller's audit.
Oh, I'm sorry, the assessor's audit. I'm sorry, the comptroller's audit. Including all the trustees, the mayor, everyone in the village clerk's office. It was a long process, and that you got the draft report at the end of September. That the report dealt with alleged or identified deficiencies in the village clerk's office, and so the board met appropriately. You felt under the public offices law to discuss personnel issues, basically, discuss the village clerk's office, to discuss CPA retention, to deal with some of the problems. The mayor was given an opportunity to respond to the draft report before the final report was completed. That's what he did with the letter of October 20th. And his letter is part of the report that was finally issued, fully there for everyone to see. That letter identified a game plan to deal with the issues that the comptroller had raised. And then the final report comes out. I don't think the final report was really any different from the draft report, but it contained appendices which included the mayor's letter. You can acknowledge that we didn't address it in the December meetings, but we did address it. The mayor brought it to the board's attention, and it was discussed in open session at the January meeting. And the finance committee has been on it. You've been on it since October. I mean, even before the audit report came out, you've been on it, identifying, following the letter that the mayor drafted to develop policies and procedures, which you are currently following. And I think part of what you're planning to do at the regular monthly meetings, when it comes to the report of the finance committee, part of the report of the finance committee is going to be to update the full board on how things are going, what further progress, if any, has been made, what further issues have been identified. And oh, by the way, in the meantime, all the AUDs are up to date. And one of the things that you're having the CPA do is to perform an independent audit now, which I think the comptroller suggested be done. That's going to be done. And when that's done, that's going to be a public record. It's going to be filed with the comptroller, and it's going to, public notice is going to be given. So I think you're cognizant of your duties as trustees. You've taken the reins here. Maybe they haven't been taken in hand before, but they are now. And you've been doing this fully since October, when all of this was dropped in your lap. I mean, something to that effect. You're doing what you can do. And maybe it's not to John's liking that it's being done that way, or as fast as you would like it done, but it's being done.
So I have a question or a suggestion or a thought. I just took 2 pages of notes. But like, I think you're right, Jerry. Like, can we come up with something short now that Mike can say to Tom and to Mitch that says, we will have a full response, or just what you just said at the end. We have been fully cognizant of our duties. We got the comptroller's report. We did all the things we were supposed to do, needed to do to address that. We feel good about that. We're continuing the work on the finance committee. I mean, something like a 3-sentence response for now.
Yeah, you've been working on this ever since you got the draft report in September.
And can I just reiterate that there was no money missing? Because I think that for people who might just be reading, and it being new to them, and maybe they haven't seen stories about this before, I think that that's a big point.
Yeah, I think you're right to reiterate that both the draft report, the final report, and the mayor's letter all touched on the fact no money was missing. There was no fraud found.
Right.
What was complained about were inaccurate postings, or things that had just not been cleaned up. Okay,
right.
So that's been brought to our attention. We're implementing policies now so that does not continue.
Right.
And we're going to continue with that oversight. I mean, the board has established a clear mechanism to work with the village clerk's office to make sure this does not repeat itself. And we've hired the outside accounting firm to help us make sure that the AUDs don't go back into delinquent status. I mean, it's becoming too wordy again, but I think the bottom line is that you're fully aware of your responsibilities. You've been taking responsibility in following the outline of the audit report.
Mm-hmm.
The audit report is on the website. Yeah.
So the board is fully aware of our fiduciary responsibilities. The entire board in the clerk's office cooperated. I had fully twice. Fully cooperated with the comptroller's office and have been working diligently to enact the corrective actions. I mean,
yes, but again, I think that within that, I think that that's a good start, and we're almost there. But I do think that if somebody reads what he said, the implications of what he said and the way he said it could imply that there was major fraud. I mean, he's asking for all our resignations like that. I think that we need to be very clear that there was no fraud and money is not missing, period. And then say that we are putting corrective actions to make sure that, there are policies and procedures that will address the issues that.
Well, in the mayor's letter, the policies and procedures are being developed based on best practices for the village municipal office. You might even, I don't know if you want to repeat from the mayor's letter, but you might paraphrase. We were pleased to know that the comptroller's office found no significant exceptions or instances of fraud or abuse. Having said that, we're cognizant of the deficiencies the audit identified, and we have resolved to put into place policies and procedures based on best practices to address those going forward.
I wouldn't say have resolved, we have done it.
We've done it.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've
Achieved.
done it and we're following through with it. And
Mhm.
not done it and left it, but we've implemented them and we've identified, implemented, and we're continuing to follow through. Something to that effect.
Where is that language, Jerry, that you're
It's
reading?
in the first,
'Cause I-
it's in the first page of the mayor's letter of October 20th. It said, we accepted the draft report. We're pleased to know the comptroller's office found no significant exceptions or instances of fraud or abuse. And then the letter actually cites the page of the paragraph of the comptroller's report where that said. But the board is also mindful of the report's findings,
Can
and to
someone
that
send
end.
me that?
Huh?
Can someone send me that letter so I don't have to pull it up?
I
Is it-
have,
Do you have it somewhere you could just, you have it, Mike?
well, I'm not sure if this
You
was.
have the
final-
audit report, Carol, that Mike sent you yesterday?
I mean, I'm sure I do.
I think Mike sent it today in an email, the audit report, and it's an
Oh,
appendix
okay.
A report.
Okay.
Let me see if I can pull it up as well, because I would have had it in Word on my machine.
Because what I think we need to do is, I think we need to give Mike some language right now to text back to those guys.
Right, I agree. And 3 sentences, 3 or 4
Well,
sentences works.
The beginning of this was the Village of Canton accepts the comptroller's report and the findings. We are pleased to know that the comptroller's office found no significant exemptions or instances of fraud or abuse. Village would like to clarify several items. The pooled cash account is out of balance due to prior adjustments made under the direction of previous accounting firms. The village board believes these adjustments will be corrected with the retention of an accounting firm that specializes in municipal accounting. Bank reconciliations are current. The errors carried forward from 2013 occurred
Yeah.
when the village changed accounting.
Mike, we need to get to the stuff we need to do. It's not that stuff. That's not,
Well, that's what is the beginning of that letter.
I just sent it to you, Carol, the first page of the letter.
thank
And
you.
I'm sending it to you as well.
I'd also just like to make one suggestion. I feel like one of the things that was a refrain was that somehow we have not been transparent about this. And I would like to speak to that as well. Because to my knowledge, we have followed exactly what the comptroller's office told us to do.
Yeah, that's
But
one of,
again, I think we need to be very, right, I think we have a chance to do a longer response.
correct, correct.
That can
Right
come through
now,
in the
we
letter.
need one that, because we need to get them something tonight so they get it in the paper.
Right. So
Carol, I just sent you the Word version of the letter that Mike sent out.
By email?
Yeah, I just sent it right now. I sent it
Okay.
just to you and Mike. I didn't send it to everybody else, but I can at the
That's
other.
all right. I'm gonna read out loud to everybody. Okay. Okay. So what about if we start with the board, village board is fully cognizant of our fiduciary responsibilities. Okay, What about if we said something, board and the clerk's office cooperated for the audit, and while the full board and clerks, was it all your staff, Sally, or should we just say clerk's office?
You're muted.
I am?
No, I was. It was all of us. Jerry has disappeared, just so you know.
Full board and clerk's office cooperated with the is it comptrollers, right?
Yes.
Comptrollers, auditors. And while we were, oh, we lost Jerry.
He's coming back right now.
Well, we are pleased to know that the audit found no significant exceptions or instances of fraud. Should we say no significant exceptions, or no money lost? No.
Yeah, you can paraphrase it. No money lost or fraud. No fraud. No
money
fraud or
missing or
money.
instances of fraud or abuse. And while we are pleased.
I have a question about pleased to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You may not want to put that in the report. Just
Nope.
Just direct the comptroller's report is
While
filed in a matter of public record. The comptroller's report found no fraud or missing money.
Right.
wait, say what you said, Jerry.
The comptroller's report is filed in a matter of public record. The report found no instances of fraud or abuse or missing funds. And however, we also, or that said, we recognize that the report did identify areas of deficiency that needed correction. We have moved affirmatively to address those areas of deficiency or to correct those areas of deficiency. And are working closely, have established a plan to work closely with the village clerk's office to address these points and make sure they don't happen again, something like that.
Okay, I'm not keeping up with this.
Yeah.
What do you have so far?
Do we want to start with the village board is fully cognizant, or we did the full board and clerk? I have so far. Tell me when to cut things out. The village board is fully cognizant of our fiduciary responsibilities. The full board and clerk's office cooperated with the comptroller's auditors. The comptroller's report is filed in a matter of public record. The audit found no instances of fraud or abuse or missing money. Instances of fraud or abuse or missing money.
The report did identify areas of.
That said, the board is mindful of. The report did identify
Deficiencies that needed correction.
Mm-hmm.
Board has taken steps to implement policies to correct those deficiencies. To address those issues,
Taking steps to implement. Wait, taking steps to address those issues?
Yeah. These include hiring outside an outside CPA, but a CPA to complete and file the annual financial reports, which have now all been complete, which are now timely up. We're now up to date.
Hire an outside to.
We hired an accounting firm specializing in municipal accounting. That's what we did. That's what the report says.
Including hiring a firm
specializing in municipal accounting.
To complete, AUDs doesn't mean anything to anyone.
The annual financial reports.
It's annual
The-
update document is what.
That's what it is? Okay.
Yes, that's what it stands for.
Annual update.
Should we call it annual financial report though? Because annual update
Yeah.
document doesn't say anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the same, yeah.
so to complete required
Annual financial reports.
annual financial reports,
Which have now been completed and filed to date.
which have been completed and filed, what?
I put to date or up to the present time.
Which have been completed. Can we say which are complete and up to date?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, the village board is
We will
fully
also be-
cognizant of our.
We will also be arranging for an audit of the clerk treasurer's records on an annual basis.
Now I think we're going like too far into
Going
the
too
weeds, I
far?
feel. like.
Okay, we don't need to do
Yeah.
that. Okay,
I don't think we need that yet.
we are
It's
continuing our
fully cognizant of
oversight.
our-
Yeah, we're
The
continuing
full
our
board and
oversight
clerk's
and
office
cooperation.
with the. Say that again?
I was just thinking to conclude, we're continuing our oversight and cooperation with the village clerk's office, or to oversee the village clerk's office, or cooperate with the village clerk's office. I don't think you want to make it sound like you've taken over the village clerk's office.
We are continuing our,
Collaboration with.
What?
what?
Do we even need that? I mean, we've said there's no money missing. We've said we've done our job. Can we just end with a sentence that says something to the effect of, we have, I don't know, followed the comptroller's instructions and been transparent, or, and be done. We can answer like the point by point through
I
our
agree.
open meetings.
Okay, the village is. How about, can we start by saying the village is fully cognizant of our fiduciary responsibilities and have handled the situation with. Oh, shit.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
hungry.
we could start with that.
Here, you know what?
I think if you just say we're cognizant of our financial responsibilities, and then go into the audit report, the final audit report has been filed and is a matter of public record. And talk about, there's no fraud.
I'm
And
sorry. Okay, we're gonna need to start at the beginning. The village is fully
Yes, go.
cognizant of our, because, so this is Mike's response. The village is fully cognizant of our fiduciary responsibilities. The full board and clerk's office cooperated with the comptroller's auditors, and their report is filed in a matter of public, and their report is filed in a matter of public record. The audit found no instances of fraud or abuse or missing money. The report did identify deficiencies that needed correction. Can we say while the audit found no instances of fraud, or it did, well, the report did identify deficiencies that needed correction.
why don't we say it listed recommendations for the board, for the board's action?
Did identify, no, because we came up with the recommendations, they didn't.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
That needed correction. The board has taken steps to address those issues, including hiring an accounting, a firm specializing in municipal accounting to complete the required annual financial reports, which are complete and up to date. And then I think I agree with Anna. We have followed, we have we have indeed fulfilled our fiduciary responsibility. What did you say, Anna, for the end?
Followed the comptroller's instructions.
Yes, we followed the comptroller's instructions and have been,
And we'll continue to oversee the,
Necessary policies to,
Controllers. We'll continue.
to oversee the operations of the clerk treasurer's office.
Yep. I think that's got it.
And maybe instead of using the word deficiencies earlier, just substitute the word issues.
Hmm.
Or something a little less
Yeah.
colorful.
Treasurers. Yeah,
in that last sentence, can you say? I mean, I guess, can you say we have been transparent, following the comptroller's instructions? Or something like
Throughout the
that?
process?
Well,
Yes.
but keep in mind, we did a lot of this in executive session. So, in October,
But I
our
mean-
meetings were primarily an executive session where we were discussing these things.
But
So
we
in terms of-
followed the,
Comptroller said we needed to keep this confidential until it was
yeah,
published. That was their instruction.
that they told us that. And
So maybe
the
that's what we say.
accusations of transparency are not true because we did what we were told. So that's
Precisely
what I want to communicate.
Right.
okay,
But
so
do
do
we
we
say
say
that?
we have been transparent following the controller's instructions for
Yes.
confidentiality?
I don't think that says what,
For confidentiality
just-
pending release of the final report,
There you go.
which is what we were told to do.
We have been transparent following the controller's instructions and requirement
For confidentiality.
for confidentiality.
Pending
Pending.
release of its final report.
Mhm.
that works.
I think
Yes.
that's good.
So then the last thing needs to be something good. We continue to
Active in
Work to-
overseeing the operations of the clerk treasurer's office.
say that again. We
Continue
continue
to-
to oversee the operations of the clerk treasurer's office.
Will continue to be active in overseeing the operations.
Continue
Yeah.
to Be active in overseeing the operations. Okay. The village board is fully cognizant of our fiduciary responsibility. The full board and clerk's office, should that say clerk treasurer's office?
Matter.
Yes,
Yeah,
doesn't
it is the
matter, but
clerk
it doesn't
treasurer's
matter.
office, yeah.
Okay, and clerk's office cooperated with the comptrollers, auditors, and their report is filed in a matter of public record. While the audit found no instances of fraud or abuse or missing money, the report did,
Identify issues.
hold on, I've just got extra words here. Hold. The did identify issues that needed correction. The board has taken steps to address those issues. I have issues twice, including hiring a firm specializing in municipal accounting to complete the required annual financials reports, which are complete and up to date. We've been transparent following the comptroller's requirement for confidentiality pending the release of the final report. We continue to be active in overseeing the operations of the clerk treasurer's office.
Yep.
Great.
I think that's it.
I agree with that statement.
I think
Yep.
that's.
Let's get it to him.
Yep.
Okay, Mike, how do you want to receive this? Text?
In what?
I'm gonna text this to you and I'm gonna email it to you.
Email it to me.
Okay, Jerry, should I copy everybody? Should I copy you, Jerry?
Sure, thank you.
Because I'm gonna send it to Grazier and I'm gonna send it to Paul.
Paul.
And I won't do anything more other than say, here's the board's statement.
Mhm. That should have it.
Here's the board's statement in response to John Gray's comments.
Yep.
And the statement accurately reflects everything the board has done.
As
So,
fully
you're
cognizant
not
of
making
fiduciary
anything up.
responsibilities of- Yes, I'm reading this to myself and here it comes.
Thanks, Carol, for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. I think.
Oh my God, I am seething. And you know what? You want to hear something really, 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 really awful?
What's that?
Probably not.
Anna and I are going to be in a meeting with John Gray at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah, the economic development meeting. Good luck with that.
So
Well, the best part about that is it's at 8 AM. So if we're done, can I make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
I would second that.
Yeah, just hold on a second. Jerry, what did you want me to say in my email? Was the following is a response?
And just say, here's the board's response to Mr. Gray's comments.
Okay.
and I would text them both and say, I just emailed a response.
Yep, I will.
Right.
Mhm. Yep. It'd be good to get that in at the same time as whatever they're putting in the paper.
Well, that's, they both asked me for comments, so.
Yep.
Right. Well, there you go.
Yep.
And if they want to watch.
Okay, team, good job. Good job. Thank you all.
Yep. Thank you. I think
isn't
that
easy.
was a good,
Nope.
good statement to get out tonight.
You know
Yep.
what? Live and learn, right?
Yep.
Every step of the
Okay.
way.
But we all need to hold our heads up.
Yep. Thank you all for your service to our community. I think that there are lots of things that we've done extraordinarily well, and I'm putting that on public record.
I'm,
Yeah, I agree with
Yep.
that, Beth. And I think that, we all put in a lot, we do a lot, and I think
And
we're
Sally,
doing-
thank
I
you
want
for
to thank
your
Sally
input.
too for putting up with all this and
Yes.
doing the work that you do, Sally.
100%, Sally. Yep.
Absolutely. And thanks,
It's
It's a
Jerry.
load a lot of people don't
All right.
realize.
Drive carefully getting home. Oh, do we have a motion?
We had a
Yes,
motion
in
and
a
a second,
second.
but no vote.
Let's
all
vote.
in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? I'm sending emails now, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everyone.